In this video, we're going to be breaking down 2 hours of Egghead arc theories in One Piece. Let's get started with the most groundbreaking revelation that's been shaking the One Piece community to its core. First, we got Vegapunk's Devil Fruit Evolution Theory. Vegapunk's Devil Fruit Evolution Theory. So first we got Vegapunk's Devil Fruit Evolution Theory, and this one completely changes everything we thought we knew about devil fruits in One Piece. This theory comes straight from the smartest man in the world, Dr. Vegapunk himself. And it's probably the most mind-blowing revelation in the entire Egghead arc, the biggest mystery, finally revealed. Let's start from the beginning. For over 25 years, One Piece fans have been wondering about devil fruits. Where do they come from? Why do they exist? Why does eating them give you crazy powers but make you unable to swim? We've gotten bits and pieces of information over the years, but nothing concrete. Then, Vegapunk drops this bombshell theory that completely flips everything on its head. According to Vegapunk's shocking theory revealed to the Straw Hats, devil fruits themselves were manifestation of the possibility for human evolution, with all the different powers representing the many branches for humanity's future, brought into existence by human hope and desire, though this unnatural state ended up making them loathed by the sea. Think about that for a second. Devil fruits aren't just random magical objects that appeared out of nowhere. They're actually the physical manifestation of human dreams, hopes, and desires for evolution. Every single devil fruit power represents a different path that humanity could take in its development. The Gomu Gomu no Mi represents the desire for flexibility and freedom. The Mera Mera no Mi represents the desire to control fire and destruction. The Hana Hana no Mi represents the desire to be everywhere at once. Why this theory makes perfect sense. This theory makes so much sense when you really think about it. Throughout One Piece, we've seen how powerful human will and desire can be. We've seen people accomplish impossible things through sheer determination. We've seen dreams literally change the world. So it's not that crazy to think that these same human emotions and desires could actually create physical objects with incredible powers. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Vegapunk suggests that devil fruits were technological tools created by the ancient kingdom, potentially as weapons or utilities in their advanced civilization. This adds another layer to the theory. It's not just that human desire created devil fruits randomly. The ancient kingdom, which existed during the Void Century, somehow figured out how to harness human hope and desire and turn it into these fruit-shaped power sources. This connects perfectly with everything we know about the ancient kingdom. They were incredibly advanced, way beyond anything we see in the current One Piece world. They had technology that seems like magic to people today, so it makes perfect sense that they would have figured out how to weaponize or utilize human emotions and dreams. The world government's fear. The theory also explains why the world government is so afraid of devil fruit research. This explains the world government's suppression of information about their true nature and efforts to control certain fruits. If devil fruits are connected to the ancient kingdom and represent the power of human hope and desire, then understanding them too well could lead people to understand what really happened during the Void Century. It could lead them to realize that the world government destroyed a civilization that was trying to help humanity evolve and grow. Now let's talk about why devil fruits make you unable to swim, though this unnatural state ended up making them loathed by the sea. Vegapunk's theory suggests that because devil fruits represent an unnatural form of human evolution, the sea, which represents nature itself, rejects them. This is why devil fruit users sink like stones in water. The ocean is literally pushing back against this artificial form of evolution, the sea as a living force. This makes the sea feel almost like a living entity in One Piece, which honestly fits with how Oda has portrayed it throughout the series. The sea has always been portrayed as this vast, powerful force that can be both friend and enemy. Now we understand that it's actually rejecting what it sees as an unnatural change to humanity. The theory becomes even more fascinating when you consider specific devil fruits and what human desires they might represent. Let's look at some examples. Luffy's fruit, which we now know is actually the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, represents humanity's desire for freedom and liberation. That's literally what Nika represents, a warrior of liberation who frees people from oppression. Blackbeard's darkness fruit could represent humanity's desire to consume and absorb everything, to have unlimited power. His ability to steal other devil fruit powers fits perfectly with this interpretation. Akainu's magma fruit might represent humanity's desire for absolute justice, even if it means destroying everything in your path. These aren't just random powers, they're reflections of deep human desires and fears. Rare and powerful fruits. The theory also helps explain why some devil fruits are so rare and powerful. The world government's efforts to control certain fruits make sense if these fruits represent particularly dangerous or important human desires. The Nika fruit was so important that they renamed it and tried to hide its true nature for 800 years. That's because the desire for freedom and liberation is probably the most dangerous thing to an oppressive government. What's really cool about this theory is how it connects to the broader themes of One Piece. The series has always been about the power of dreams and how people can achieve impossible things when they really believe in something. Now we learn that devil fruits themselves are literally powered by that same force, human hope and desire. The secret of devil fruit awakening. This also explains why devil fruit awakenings are so rare and powerful. Awakening probably happens when a person's desire and will become so strong that it matches the original desire that created the fruit. That's why awakening is so difficult and why it seems to require both incredible strength and a deep understanding of what your power really represents. The environmental implications of this theory are huge too. Vegapunk hints at a connection between devil fruits and rising sea levels that submerged large portions of the ancient world, suggesting their creation may have had unintended consequences. If the ancient kingdom was mass-producing devil fruits or using this technology on a large scale, it might have caused environmental disasters. Maybe the creation of so many unnatural evolutions caused the sea to rise up and flood the world in response. The Great Flood Theory. This would explain why so much of the One Piece world is ocean and why there are so many scattered islands. The world might have been much more connected before the ancient kingdom's experiments with devil fruit technology caused a global flood. This connects to the recurring theme of rising sea levels that Vegapunk mentions in his broadcast during the Egghead arc. Another fascinating aspect of this theory is what it means for the future of One Piece. If devil fruits represent human evolutionary possibilities, then the awakening of fruits like Luffy's Nika fruit might represent humanity taking the next step in its development. Luffy becoming Joy Boy and awakening the power of liberation might be the beginning of humanity, evolving past the need for oppressive governments like the world government. Can new devil fruits be created? The theory also raises questions about whether new devil fruits can still be created. If they're born from human desire, then new ones should theoretically appear when humans develop new hopes and dreams. This could explain why we keep seeing new and unique devil fruits throughout the series. What makes this theory so compelling is that it comes from Vegapunk himself. This isn't just fan speculation. It's information from the smartest person in the One Piece world. Vegapunk's extraordinary intelligence stems not just from natural genius, but from his devil fruit, the Nomi Nomi Nomi, brain fruit. His brain has been enhanced to process information at incredible speeds, so when he comes up with a theory like this, it carries serious weight. Why we should trust Vegapunk. Plus, Vegapunk has access to information that nobody else does. He's worked with the world government for years and has studied devil fruits more than anyone else alive. If anyone would understand the true nature of devil fruits, it would be him. The timing of this revelation is also perfect. We're in the final saga of One Piece, which means Oda is finally ready to start answering the big questions that have been building up for decades. The mystery of devil fruits has been one of the biggest questions in the series, so it makes sense that we'd get this kind of major revelation now. What this means for different devil fruit types. When we break down this theory by devil fruit categories, it becomes even more interesting. Paramecia fruits might represent human desires for specific abilities or changes to their bodies. Zoan fruits could represent humanity's desire to connect with and embody the traits of animals. Mythical Zoans like Luffy's Nika fruit represent humanity's desire to become legendary figures and embody abstract concepts like freedom. Logia fruits are particularly fascinating under this theory. They might represent humanity's desire to become one with the fundamental forces of nature. Think about it. Humans have always looked at fire, ice, lightning, and other natural phenomena with a mixture of fear and desire to control them. Logia fruits let people literally become these forces. The connection to Haki. This theory also creates interesting connections to Haki. If devil fruits represent artificial evolution, then Haki might represent natural human evolution. Both are powered by will and desire, but Haki comes from within, while devil fruits are external power sources. Maybe the ultimate goal is for humanity to develop Haki to the point where they don't need devil fruits anymore. What this means for the final saga. This theory completely reframes how we think about devil fruits and their role in the One Piece world. They're not just tools for fighting or random magical objects. They're literally the the crystallized hopes and dreams of humanity, created by an advanced civilization that understood the power of human will better than anyone else. Looking ahead, this theory sets up some incredible possibilities for the end of One Piece. If devil fruits represent human evolutionary potential, then maybe the ultimate goal isn't just to find the One Piece treasure, but to help humanity evolve beyond the need for these artificial enhancements. Maybe the real treasure is learning to achieve these incredible abilities through natural human development rather than devil fruit powers. The theory also suggests that the final conflict might not just be about political power, but about the future of human evolution itself. The world government wants to control how humanity develops, while the true inheritors of the ancient kingdoms want humanity to evolve freely according to their own hopes and dreams. Vegapunk's devil fruit evolution theory isn't just a cool piece of lore, it's a fundamental revelation that changes everything we thought we knew about the One Piece world and sets up the themes and conflicts that will drive the rest of the final saga. It transforms devil fruits from mysterious magical objects into symbols of human potential and the power of dreams, which perfectly fits the core message of One Piece itself. Vegapunk's devil fruit evolution theory reveals that devil fruits aren't just magical objects, they're actually physical manifestations of human hopes, dreams, and desires for evolution. Created by the ancient kingdom as advanced technology, each devil fruit represents a different path humanity could take in its development. The theory explains why devil fruit users can't swim, because the sea rejects this unnatural form of evolution. It also connects to why the world government suppresses devil fruit research, since understanding their true nature could expose the truth about the Void Century. This revelation reframes the entire series, showing that devil fruits are literally powered by the same force that drives One Piece's main theme, the power of human will and dreams. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Luffy's true devil fruit identity, no Mi. Hito no Mi. Model, Nika. Luffy's true devil fruit identity, Hito no Mi. Model, Nika. Now we've got Luffy's true devil fruit identity, and this revelation completely shattered everything we thought we knew about our main character. For over 1,000 chapters, we believed Luffy had eaten the Gomu no Mi, the simple rubber fruit, but the Egghead arc dropped one of the biggest plot twists in One Piece history when Vegapunk revealed the shocking truth about what Luffy's devil fruit really island. The lie that lasted 25 years. For the entire run of One Piece, we've been told that Luffy ate the Gomu no Mi. It seemed like a pretty basic devil fruit. It makes your body stretchy like rubber. Sure, Luffy did incredible things with it, but we always thought that was just because he was creative and determined. The fruit itself seemed almost weak compared to other devil fruits we saw throughout the series. But everything changed when Vegapunk saw Luffy's Gear 5 transformation for the first time. Vegapunk then revealed that none of the old books ever mentioned the Gomu no Mi, and instead he drew comparisons between Gear 5 and the legends of the sun god Nika. The truth was staring us in the face the whole time, but we never saw it coming. Luffy's devil fruit isn't actually the Gomu no Mi at all. It's the Hito no Mi model, Nika, a mythical Zoan-type devil fruit that transforms the user into the legendary sun god Nika. This is the same exact power that Joy Boy used during the Void Century, making Luffy the direct successor to one of the most important figures in One Piece history. Why the world government hid the truth? The revelation of Luffy's true devil fruit explains so much about the world government's behavior throughout the series. The awakening of these powers in Luffy represents the return of Joy Boy's will, directly threatening the world government's carefully maintained facade. The five elders have been terrified of this fruit awakening for 800 years, so much that they renamed it to hide its true nature. Think about how desperate the world government has been to capture or kill Luffy, especially after his bounty started getting really high. It wasn't just because he was causing trouble. They knew exactly what devil fruit he had, and they were terrified of what would happen if he awakened it. They've been trying to prevent the return of Joy Boy for centuries, and Luffy represented their worst nightmare coming true. The world government didn't just rename the fruit randomly either. They specifically chose to call it the Gomu no Mi to make it sound as harmless and unimpressive as possible. Rubber powers sound silly and weak, nothing like the terrifying power of a mythical god. By making people think it was just a basic paramecia fruit, they hoped no one would realize its true significance. The legend of Nika. To understand why this revelation is so important, we need to talk about who Nika actually Island Nika is known as the sun god and the warrior of liberation. According to the legends that have been passed down through generations, Nika was a figure who fought to free people from oppression and slavery. He brought joy and laughter wherever he went, and he had the power to liberate anyone who was suffering. This perfectly matches everything we know about Luffy's character and goals. From the very beginning of One Piece, Luffy has been liberating people and islands from tyrants and oppressors. He freed Kobe from Alvida, he liberated Orange Town from Buggy, he saved Syrup Village from Kuro, and the list goes on and on. Every major arc involves Luffy freeing someone or somewhere from some form of oppression. The connection between Luffy and Nika goes even deeper than just their actions. Nika is associated with bringing joy and laughter, and that's exactly what Luffy does wherever he goes. People's lives become brighter and happier after meeting Luffy. He has this natural ability to make friends and inspire people to be better versions of themselves. How this changes everything about Gear 5. When Luffy first awakened his Devil Fruit and entered Gear 5 during his fight with Kaido, it seemed like a completely new power that came out of nowhere. His hair turned white, his body became even more rubber-like, and he started laughing uncontrollably. He could manipulate his environment in impossible ways and seemed to break the laws of physics entirely. Now we understand that this wasn't just a new gear. It was Luffy finally awakening his true Devil Fruit power and becoming the Sun God Nika. All those impossible things he could do in Gear 5, like turning the ground into rubber or making his fist grow to giant size, weren't new abilities. They were the true powers of the Nika Fruit finally being unleashed. The constant laughing and joy that Luffy experiences in Gear 5 also makes perfect sense now. Nika is associated with bringing joy and laughter, so when Luffy transforms into Nika, he naturally becomes filled with that same joyful energy. It's not just a side effect of the transformation, it's a core part of what makes Nika Huhi Island, the drums of liberation. One of the most distinctive features of Gear 5 is the drumming sound that plays when Luffy uses it. This sound is called the Drums of Liberation, and it's actually the sound of Luffy's heartbeat when he's in his awakened form. But it's much more than just a heartbeat, it's a signal that Joy Boy has returned. The Drums of Liberation are so powerful that they can awaken ancient technology from the Void Century. We saw this happen with the Iron Giant on Egghead, which had been dormant for 200 years until it heard Luffy's drums. This suggests that Joy Boy and his allies had technology that was specifically designed to respond to the power of Nika. The drums also seem to inspire hope in people who hear them. Throughout the series, we've seen how Luffy's presence can change people's hearts and give them the courage to fight for their freedom. Now we know that this isn't just because of his personality, it's because he carries the power of the legendary Liberator himself. Joy Boy's connection to Luffy. The revelation that Luffy has the same Devil Fruit as Joy Boy creates a direct connection between them that goes beyond just shared ideals. Joy Boy was a figure from the Void Century who made promises to various groups and seemed to be working towards some kind of great change in the world. However, for unknown reasons, he wasn't able to fulfill all of his promises before he died. Now Luffy, as the new holder of the Nika Fruit, has essentially become the new Joy Boy. This doesn't mean he's the same person reincarnated, but rather that he's inherited Joy Boy's role and responsibilities. All of those promises that Joy Boy couldn't keep might now fall to Luffy to fulfill. This connection explains why so many ancient things in the One Piece world seem to be waiting for Joy Boy's return. The Sea Kings have been waiting, the people of Fishman Island have been waiting, and various pieces of ancient technology have been dormant, all seemingly preparing for the day when Joy Boy would come back to finish what he started. Why Luffy never noticed? One question that many fans have is why Luffy never realized his fruit was different from what everyone thought it was. The answer is actually pretty simple. Luffy has never been the type of person to overthink things or worry about technical details. He knew his body could stretch like rubber, so he just accepted that he had a rubber fruit and moved on. Additionally, the Nika Fruit's powers would only become obvious once it was awakened. Before awakening, it would function very similarly to how we thought the Gomu Gomu no Mi worked. Luffy's body was stretchy and bouncy, just like rubber. It's only when the fruit awakens that the true godlike powers become apparent. The world government also did everything they could to suppress information about Nika and the true nature of this devil fruit. They made sure that any records or stories about Nika were either destroyed or hidden away. Most people in the world had never even heard of Nika, let alone knew about his devil fruit powers. The significance of mythical Zoan fruits. Learning that Luffy's fruit is actually a mythical Zoan completely changes how we think about his powers. Mythical Zoan fruits are incredibly rare and powerful, often granting abilities that seem to break the normal rules of devil fruits. We've seen this with characters like Marco, who can transform into a phoenix, and Kaido, who can become a dragon. Mythical Zoan fruits typically represent legendary creatures or gods from mythology. The fact that Luffy's fruit represents Nika, a god of liberation, shows just how significant his role is meant to be in the world of One Piece. He's not just a regular pirate, he's the inheritor of a godlike power that's meant to change the world. The awakening of mythical Zoan fruits also tends to be particularly dramatic and world-changing. When Luffy awakened his Nika powers, it didn't just make him stronger, it fundamentally altered his connection to the world around him and announced to everyone that something major was happening. How this affects the final saga. The revelation of Luffy's true devil fruit identity sets up the final saga in a completely different way than we might have expected. Luffy isn't just fighting to become the Pirate King anymore. He's fulfilling an 800-year-old destiny as the successor to Joy Boy and the wielder of the power of liberation. This puts him in direct opposition to the world government, not just as a pirate, but as the return of their greatest fear. The five elders and Emu have spent centuries making sure that Joy Boy could never return, and now their worst nightmare has come true. The final conflict isn't just about treasure or territory, it's about the future of freedom itself. The revelation also explains why so many different groups and individuals have been drawn to Luffy throughout his journey. On some level, they recognize that he carried the same spirit as Joy Boy, even if they didn't understand why. Now that his true power has awakened, that connection has become undeniable. What this means for devil fruit classifications. Luffy's fruit being revealed as a mythical Zoan also changes how we think about devil fruit classifications in general. For years, fans have debated whether certain fruits might actually be different types than what we were told. The revelation that the world government has been deliberately lying about and renaming devil fruits opens up the possibility that other fruits we know might not be what they seem. This also raises questions about how many other important devil fruits the world government might have hidden or renamed throughout history. If they were willing to go to such lengths to hide the Nika fruit, what other powers might they be keeping secret? The power of names and legends. One of the most interesting aspects of this revelation is how it shows the power of names and legends in the One Piece world. By renaming the Nika fruit to something mundane like the Gomu Gomu no Mi, the world government wasn't just hiding information, they were actively working to prevent the legend of Nika from inspiring people. Names and stories have real power in One Piece. When people hear about legendary figures like Joy Boy or Nika, it gives them hope and inspiration to fight for their freedom. By suppressing these stories, the world government has been trying to keep people from realizing that liberation is possible. Now that the truth about Luffy's fruit is starting to come out, those old legends are becoming real again. People around the world are beginning to remember the stories of Nika and Joy Boy, and that's giving them the courage to stand up against oppression. Luffy's devil fruit isn't actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it's the mythical Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, the same power used by Joy Boy 800 years ago. The world government renamed it and hid its true nature because they feared the return of the sun god Nika, the legendary warrior of liberation. This revelation explains Luffy's Gear 5 transformation, the drums of liberation, and why ancient technology responds to his presence. It transforms Luffy from a regular pirate into the destined successor of Joy Boy, making his conflict with the world government about the future of freedom itself rather than just piracy. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Bartholomew Kuma's Buccaneer Heritage. Bartholomew Kuma's Buccaneer Heritage. Next, we've got Bartholomew Kuma's Buccaneer Heritage, and this revelation completely transforms one of the most mysterious and tragic characters in all of One Piece. For years, we knew Kuma as the emotionless cyborg warlord who seemed to blindly follow the world government's orders. But the Egghead arc finally revealed the heartbreaking truth about Kuma's past and why he became the way he is today. The mystery of Kuma's race. Throughout most of One Piece, we knew very little about Kuma's background. He was massive, incredibly strong, and had this weird bear-like appearance. But nobody really questioned where he came from or why he looked the way he did. Even when we learned that he was once the king of the Sorbet Kingdom and later joined the Revolutionary Army, his origins remained a complete mystery. The big revelation came when Saint J. Garcia Saturn himself disclosed that Kuma is a survivor of the nearly extinct Buccaneer race. According to Saturn, the Buccaneers are a tribe whose members committed some kind of grave crime in the past. Though what exactly that crime was remains unclear. This revelation immediately explained so much about Kuma's tragic life and why he suffered so much. Bartholomew Kuma was born 47 years ago in the Sorbet Kingdom to his father Clap and a human mother, making him part of the buccaneer race on his father's side. This mixed heritage means Kuma inherited the incredible size and strength that comes with buccaneer blood, but it also doomed him to a life of persecution and slavery. What makes buccaneers special? The buccaneer race is incredibly unique in the One Piece world. These people have giant's blood running through their veins, which explains why they're so massive and possess tremendous amounts of strength. Even someone like Kuma, who's only half buccaneer, inherited these incredible physical traits from his father's side of the family. But having giant blood isn't just about being big and strong. The buccaneers seem to have other special qualities that make them valuable to certain people and dangerous to others. Their connection to giants might also explain why they have such incredible endurance and resilience. We've seen how much punishment Kuma can take, both as a human and as a cyborg, and this probably comes from his buccaneer heritage. The most tragic part about being a buccaneer is that they're considered criminals just for existing. Whatever crime their ancestors committed has marked the entire race for persecution. The world government treats all buccaneers as slaves by birthright, meaning that no matter what kind of person you are or what you've done with your life, if you have buccaneer blood, you're automatically considered property of the celestial dragons. Kuma's tragic childhood. Kuma's story becomes even more heartbreaking when we learn about his childhood. When government agents discovered that Kuma's family had buccaneer blood, they immediately captured all three of them. Despite Kuma's father begging them to let go of his wife and child, the entire family was enslaved by the celestial dragons and taken to marry GOIs. Living as a slave under the celestial dragons is probably one of the worst fates anyone can suffer in the One Piece world. These so-called gods treat other humans like animals, forcing them to do horrible things for their entertainment. Kuma's mother died during their enslavement, leaving young Kuma alone with just his father to comfort him. Kuma's father, Clap, tried to keep his son's spirits up by telling him stories about Nika, the sun god and warrior of liberation. According to Clap, Nika would eventually come to save them and all the other slaves. These stories became incredibly important to Kuma, giving him hope during the darkest period of his life and shaping his dream of becoming a hero who could free people from suffering. The God Valley Incident. One of the most important events in Kuma's life was the God Valley Incident, which happened when he was still a child. This was a massive battle involving the Rocks Pirates, the Roger Pirates, and Marine forces led by Garp. But for the slaves on the island, it represented a chance for freedom. During this chaos, Kuma met two other slaves who would become incredibly important in his life, Ginny and Emporio Ivankov. They were working together to help the slaves escape, and Kuma volunteered to help with their most dangerous mission. They needed someone to steal two powerful devil fruits that were being used as prizes in a twisted hunting competition where celestial dragons hunted slaves for sport. Kuma bravely volunteered to eat one of the devil fruits, knowing it might kill him, but willing to risk everything for the chance to help others escape. He successfully consumed the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi, gaining the power to repel anything he touched with his paw pads. This devil fruit would become central to his identity and his ability to help others throughout his life. Life after escape. After escaping from God Valley, Kuma's life took on new meaning. He settled in the southern part of the Sorbet Kingdom, where he became a priest and used his devil fruit powers to help people. Specifically, he would use his paw fruit to absorb people's pain and suffering, taking it into his own body so they could feel better. This perfectly reflects Kuma's character and his desire to be like Nika, the liberator from his father's stories. Even though taking on other people's pain meant he would suffer instead, Kuma was willing to do it because it meant he could help others. This selfless nature would define everything he did for the rest of his life. Kuma also developed a close relationship with Ginny during this time. They had escaped God Valley together and shared the bond of having survived that horrible experience. Ginny even wanted to marry Kuma, but he couldn't agree to it because he didn't want her to suffer for being involved with a buccaneer. He knew that his heritage would always make him a target, and he didn't want to drag her down with him. The Revolutionary Army years. Kuma's admiration for Monkey D. Dragon and his desire to save people eventually led him to join the Revolutionary Army. This was the perfect organization for someone with Kuma's background and goals. The revolutionaries fight against the world government and work to free people from oppression, which aligned perfectly with Kuma's dream of being a liberator like Nika. As a founding member and officer of the Revolutionary Army, Kuma played a crucial role in their operations. His devil fruit powers made him incredibly valuable for rescue missions, since he could instantly transport people to safety by repelling them to distant locations. He could also remove their injuries and fatigue, making him like a one-man medical and evacuation team. For several years, Kuma split his time between his work with the Revolutionary Army and his life in the Sorbet Kingdom. He was trying to build a better world while also taking care of the people in his local community. This double life shows how dedicated he was to helping others on both a personal and global scale. The tragedy of Ginny. Just when things seemed to be going well for Kuma, tragedy struck again. Ginny, the woman he loved but couldn't marry because of his heritage, was kidnapped by the celestial dragons to become one of their brides. This was probably one of the most devastating moments in Kuma's life, seeing the person he cared about most dragged back into the same slavery they had escaped from years earlier. 2 years later, Ginny returned, but she was dying from a strange disease that covered her body in sapphire-like scales. Even worse, she had been forced to bear a child by one of the celestial dragons. Before she died, she entrusted her daughter to Kuma, asking him to raise her as his own. This daughter was Jewelry Bonnie, who would grow up thinking of Kuma as her real father. Kuma loved Bonnie like she was his own child and would do anything to protect her. However, Bonnie inherited the same disease that killed her mother, and it would get worse whenever she was exposed to light. This meant Kuma had to constantly worry about her health and safety. The ultimate sacrifice. The final and most tragic part of Kuma's story involves the sacrifice he made to save Bonnie's life. When Bonnie's disease became life-threatening, the world government offered Kuma a deal. They would provide treatment for Bonnie's condition, but in exchange, Kuma would have to give up his free will and become a mindless cyborg weapon for them. The stipulations of this deal were impossibly cruel. Kuma would gradually lose his consciousness and personality as Vegapunk replaced more and more of his body with mechanical parts. Eventually, he would become nothing more than a robot that blindly followed orders, with no memory of his past or the people he loved. Despite knowing exactly what this deal would cost him, Kuma accepted it without hesitation. His love for Bonnie was so strong that he was willing to sacrifice everything, his freedom, his personality, his very self, just to keep her alive. This shows the incredible depth of Kuma's selfless nature and his willingness to suffer so others don't have to. The Buccaneer connection to ancient history. The revelation about Kuma's Buccaneer heritage also connects to some of the biggest mysteries in One Piece. The crime that the Buccaneers supposedly committed was likely something that happened during the Void Century, possibly related to their support of the ancient kingdom or Joy Boy himself. Given that Kuma's father told him stories about Nika, and these stories were part of Buccaneer folklore, it's possible that the Buccaneers were allies or supporters of Joy Boy during the Great War 800 years ago. Their crime might have been fighting against the 20 kingdoms that would eventually form the world government. This would explain why the world government is so determined to keep Buccaneers enslaved. It's not just racism or a desire for strong slaves, it's a way of punishing the descendants of people who oppose them during the most important conflict in world history. Other possible Buccaneers. The revelation about the Buccaneer race has led fans to speculate about whether other characters might also have Buccaneer blood. The most popular theory is that Whitebeard might have been a Buccaneer, given his enormous size, incredible strength, and his dream of having a family. His past experiences might have been shaped by the same kind of persecution that Kuma faced. Other large characters like Big Mom or even Blackbeard could potentially have Buccaneer heritage. Their unusual size and strength might not just be genetic quirks, but signs of giant blood running through their veins. However, these remain theories since we don't have definitive proof about their backgrounds. The legacy of Buccaneer suffering. What makes the Buccaneer story so powerful is how it represents the broader theme of inherited suffering in One Piece. People are punished not for their own actions, but for things their ancestors did centuries ago. This mirrors real-world issues of systemic racism and generational trauma. The world government's treatment of Buccaneers shows how oppressive systems work to maintain power. By keeping entire groups of people enslaved and powerless, they prevent any challenges to their authority. The Buccaneers' strength and potential connection to Joy Boy made them particularly dangerous to the world government's control. Kuma's heroic nature. Despite everything he's suffered, Kuma has consistently chosen to be a hero and protector. From his childhood decision to risk his life for other slaves, to his years of taking on people's pain as a priest, to his ultimate sacrifice for Bonnie, Kuma has always put others before himself. This makes his transformation into a mindless cyborg even more tragic. The world government took someone who embodied the spirit of liberation and turned him into a weapon of oppression. They forced the kindest person to become a tool for maintaining the very system he had spent his life fighting against. The return of Kuma's consciousness. Recent developments in the Egghead arc suggest that Kuma's consciousness might not be completely gone. His arrival on Egghead and his protective actions toward Bonnie show that some part of his original personality might still exist, even after all the modifications Vegapunk made to his body. This gives hope that Kuma's story might not be over yet. Perhaps his Buccaneer heritage includes some kind of resistance to the world government's attempts to completely erase his mind. His connection to the legends of Nika and his own heroic nature might be strong enough to overcome even the most advanced brainwashing technology. What this means for the future. The revelation of Kuma's Buccaneer heritage sets up important plot points for the final saga. As one of the last surviving members of this persecuted race, Kuma represents a living connection to the crimes of the world government and the suffering they've caused throughout history. His story also connects to larger themes about liberation and freedom that are central to the final conflict. Luffy, as the new Nika, represents the hope that Kuma's father told him about as a child. The warrior of liberation has finally returned, and he might be able to fulfill the promises that Joy Boy couldn't keep 800 years ago. Kuma's heritage also explains why he's been such an important ally to the Straw Hats throughout the series. Even when he seemed to be working for the world government, he was secretly helping Luffy and his crew. On some level, he recognized that Luffy carried the same spirit of liberation that his people had been waiting for. Bartholomew Kuma belongs to the nearly extinct Buccaneer race, descendants with giant blood who were enslaved by the world government for an unknown historical crime. Born half Buccaneer, Kuma suffered a childhood of slavery under the Celestial Dragons before escaping during the God Valley incident. Despite becoming a Revolutionary Army officer and priest who helped others, tragedy struck when Ginny was kidnapped and died, leaving him to raise her daughter Bonnie. Kuma's ultimate sacrifice came when he gave up his free will to become a cyborg in exchange for Bonnie's medical treatment, showing how the world government turns even the most heroic people into weapons of oppression. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Seraphim as Warlord replacements. The Seraphim as Warlord replacements. Moving on, we've got the Seraphim as Warlord replacements. And this is honestly one of the most terrifying developments in the entire One Piece series. The world government just created what might be the most powerful military force we've ever seen, and they did it by combining some of the strongest pirates in history with cutting-edge technology that's centuries ahead of its time. The end of the Seven Warlord system. To understand why the Seraphim are so important, we need to talk about what they're replacing. The Seven Warlords of the Sea were one of the three great powers that kept the world in balance for decades. These were incredibly powerful pirates who worked with the world government in exchange for legal protection and other benefits. The warlord system worked because it gave the world government access to pirate-level strength without having to actually trust pirates. The warlords were strong enough to fight other powerful pirates, but the government could control them through their legal status and various threats. It was a delicate balance that kept some of the strongest people in the world from becoming enemies of the government. But during the Reverie, the world government decided to abolish the entire warlord system. This was a massive decision that sent shockwaves throughout the world. Suddenly, 7 of the most powerful people on the seas were no longer protected by the government, and many of them immediately became enemies again. The reason the government felt confident enough to make this decision was because they had already developed a replacement that they believed was even better than the original warlords. They had created the Seraphim, and these new weapons were so powerful that they didn't need to rely on unpredictable pirates anymore. What makes the Seraphim so dangerous? The Seraphim are a special type of pacifista unit developed by the Marines Special Science Group with the intention of replacing the 7 warlords of the sea as one of the 3 great powers. But calling them just upgraded pacifistas doesn't really capture how terrifying these things actually are. These aren't just robots with laser beams. The Seraphim are living weapons built as clones of the former members of the Warlords, mixed with King's Lunarian lineage factor, and augmented with the Devil Fruit power-replicating green blood. Imagine taking the strongest pirates in the world, making them younger and stronger, giving them the defensive abilities of the most durable race we've ever seen, and then programming them to be completely loyal to the government. Each Seraphim unit bears an uncanny resemblance to former Warlords of the Sea, but they appear at a much younger age and at a relatively larger size. They're actually taller than their original counterparts in most cases, except for Esper, who is shorter than Kuma. This means they took already powerful people and made them even more physically imposing. The Lunarian enhancement. One of the most crucial aspects of the Seraphim is that they're enhanced with King's Lunarian lineage factor. The Lunarians were known as one of the most durable races in the entire One Piece world. King, who was the last known Lunarian, could withstand incredible amounts of damage and had this unique defensive ability where he was nearly invulnerable when his flame was burning. By incorporating Lunarian DNA into the Seraphim, Vegapunk gave them defensive capabilities that surpass even their original counterparts. We saw this during the fights on Egghead, where even the monster trio had trouble actually damaging these things. Sanji literally took a hit to the face just to show off because he knew S-Shark couldn't really hurt him, but the Seraphim was equally unbothered by Sanji's attacks. The Lunarian wings also give the Seraphim the ability to fly at incredible speeds. This adds a whole new dimension to their combat abilities and makes them much more versatile than the original Pacifistas, who were limited to ground-based combat and laser attack. Green blood and Devil Fruit powers. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of the Seraphim is their green blood technology. This artificial blood allows them to replicate Devil Fruit abilities without actually eating Devil Fruits. This is an incredible breakthrough that basically gives the government access to multiple Devil Fruit powers without the usual limitations. The green blood means that S-Hawk can use Dracule Mihawk's sword skills, enhanced by cutting power, S-Snake can use Boa Hancock's petrification abilities, S-Shark can use Jinbei's Fishman karate, enhanced by water manipulation, and S-Bear can use Kuma's Paw Paw fruit powers. They get all the benefits of these incredibly powerful abilities without any of the traditional Devil Fruit weaknesses. This technology is so advanced that it represents a completely new era of warfare in the One Piece world. The government no longer needs to hope that powerful Devil Fruit users will work with them. They can just create their own artificial users, who are guaranteed to be loyal. The complete Seraphim lineup. We've now seen all 7 of the original Seraphim, each based on a different member of the 7 Warlords lineup from when Bartholomew Kuma joined. The lineup includes S-Hawk based on Dracule Mihawk, S-Snake based on Boa Hancock, S-Shark based on Jinbei, S-Bear based on Bartholomew Kuma, and 3 more recently revealed Seraphim. The 3 new Seraphim revealed appear to be modeled after Don Quixote do Flamingo, Sir Crocodile, and Gecko Moria. With these 3 being the final members of the original 7 Warlords lineup, these are likely the final Seraphim weapons that we'll see, representing the complete replacement of the old system. Each of these Seraphim presumably has access to the same Devil Fruit abilities as their original counterparts. This means the government now has access to Doflamingo's string powers, Crocodile's sand abilities, and Moria's shadow manipulation, all in the form of completely loyal super soldiers. Programming and control. One of the most important aspects of the Seraphim is how they're controlled. Unlike the original Warlords, who had their own goals and motivations, the Seraphim are programmed to be completely obedient to authority. The 5 Elders, Dr. Vegapunk, Sentomaru, and those with authority chips can command the Seraphim to do whatever they want. This control system represents everything the world government wanted from the Warlord system but could never achieve. They get access to incredible power without having to worry about betrayal, personal agendas, or changing loyalties. The Seraphim will follow orders no matter how dangerous or morally questionable they might be. However, this control system also represents a weakness. We saw during the Egghead arc how the authority hierarchy could be manipulated. When York turned traitor, she was able to use her authority to turn the Seraphim against the very people they were supposed to protect. This shows that while the control system makes the Seraphim reliable, it also makes them vulnerable to anyone who can hack or manipulate that system. Combat capabilities. The fighting ability of the Seraphim is honestly terrifying. They combined the natural fighting instincts and techniques of some of the strongest pirates in history with enhanced physical capabilities and advanced technology. S-Hawk fights with sword techniques that mirror Mihawk's style but with enhanced cutting power. S-Snake uses Hancock's combat style enhanced by her Lunarian durability. What makes them even more dangerous is that they can learn and improve over time. Unlike regular robots that are limited to their programming, the Seraphim have the ability to adapt their fighting strategies and develop new techniques. This means they're not just powerful right now, they're going to keep getting stronger as they gain more combat experience. The Seraphim also don't have the same emotional limitations as their original counterparts. Mihawk might hold back in certain situations, or choose not to fight at full power. But S-Hawk will always fight to win. They don't have personal relationships or moral codes that might prevent them from using their full strength against any opponent. The end of pirate independence. The creation of the Seraphim represents a fundamental shift in how the world government approaches the pirate problem. Instead of trying to control or negotiate with powerful pirates, they're now working to replace them entirely. Why deal with unpredictable human beings when you can create perfect artificial versions that will never disobey orders? This development is particularly scary for pirates because it means the government no longer needs them for anything. The warlord system at least provided some protection and legitimacy for certain pirates, but now even that option is gone. The government has essentially declared that they're moving toward a world where independent pirates are completely unnecessary. The message is clear: if you're not working directly for the world government, then you're an enemy to be eliminated. There's no middle ground anymore. No room for negotiation or compromise. The Seraphim represent the government's vision of perfect order. 1905. A world where all power is controlled by them and no one else has the strength to resist. Implications for the balance of power. The Seraphim fundamentally changed the balance of power in the One Piece world. The three great powers used to be the Marines, the 7 warlords, and the 4 emperors. Now the government has essentially absorbed the warlords' power into their own forces, giving them a massive advantage over the remaining emperors. This shift means that the final conflict in One Piece is likely to be even more lopsided than we might have expected. The government now has access to Marine forces, Cypher Pole agents, the full Seraphim lineup, and potentially other advanced weapons we haven't seen yet. The pirates who oppose them are facing an enemy with resources and technology that far exceed anything they've dealt with before. However, this might also push the remaining pirates to work together in ways they never have before. When faced with an enemy that threatens everyone's independence, even rivals might be forced to cooperate. The Seraphim could inadvertently create the largest pirate alliance in history. The moral questions. The creation of the Seraphim raises some serious moral questions about identity, consent, and the nature of life itself. These beings are essentially clones of real people who never agreed to be copied. They have the faces and abilities of pirates who might still be alive, but they're programmed to fight against everything their originals believed in. What makes this even more disturbing is that the Seraphim appear to have personalities and emotions to some extent. They're not just mindless robots. They seem to be living beings who have been created for the sole purpose of serving a government that many of their originals opposed. It's essentially a form of slavery that goes beyond anything we've seen before in the series. The fact that the government can create artificial versions of people and use them as weapons also opens up terrifying possibilities for the future. If they can clone the warlords, what's stopping them from cloning other powerful individuals? Could they create Seraphim based on the emperors, or even deceased legends like Gol D. Roger? Weaknesses and limitations. Despite their incredible power, the Seraphim do have some limitations. Their control system, while making them reliable, also makes them predictable. They can only follow orders and can't think creatively or adapt to situations that weren't anticipated by their programmers. The Seraphim also seem to lack the true fighting spirit and determination that made the original warlords so dangerous. While they're incredibly powerful, they don't have the same burning desire to win or the emotional investment in their fights that drives human warriors to exceed their limits. Additionally, their reliance on green blood for devil fruit abilities might represent a weakness. If that artificial blood can be disrupted or depleted, they might lose access to some of their most powerful abilities. This could provide a way for opponents to level the playing field against these seemingly invincible opponents. The future of the Seraphim. The Seraphim represent just the beginning of what's possible with this technology. If the government can create artificial versions of the warlords, they might be able to create enhanced versions of other powerful individuals as well. The technology could potentially be used to create an entire army of artificial super soldiers based on the strongest people in history. However, the Seraphim might also represent the government's hubris. By trying to replace human beings with artificial alternatives, they might be underestimating the power of human will, determination, and the bonds between people. These qualities have been central to every major victory in One Piece, and they can't be replicated with technology. The final test of the Seraphim will come when they face opponents who fight not just for victory, but for their dreams, their friends, and their freedom. Technology might be able to copy abilities and enhance physical capabilities, but it can't replicate the human spirit that drives people to achieve the impossible. The Seraphim are advanced cyborg clones of the original 7 warlords, enhanced with Lunarian DNA for incredible durability and artificial green blood that replicates devil fruit powers. Created to replace the abolished warlord system, they represent the world government's attempt to control pirate-level strength without relying on unpredictable human allies. All 7 original warlords have been cloned, creating perfectly loyal super soldiers with the combat abilities of some of history's strongest pirates. While incredibly powerful, the Seraphim raise moral questions about cloning and represent a shift toward total government control, potentially forcing remaining pirates to unite against this technological threat. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Iron Giant divided by Emmett's connection to Joy Boy and Nika. The Iron Giant divided by Emmett's connection to Joy Boy and Nika. Next up, we've got the Iron Giant's connection to Joy Boy and Nika, and this is probably one of the most mysterious and exciting developments in the entire Egghead arc. This massive ancient robot has been sleeping for 200 years, but the moment Luffy transformed into Gear 5, it suddenly came back to life. The connection between this ancient machine and the legendary figures of the past reveals some incredible secrets about the Void Century and what's really happening in the final saga. The mystery of the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant, whose real name is Emmett, is a robot created around the time of the Void Century who was a friend of Joy Boy. This isn't just any old machine, it's a remnant from the most advanced civilization that ever existed in the One Piece world. For most of the series, ancient technology has been hinted at but never really shown in detail. The Iron Giant represents our first real look at what the people of the ancient kingdom were capable of creating. Emmett is absolutely massive, standing around as tall as the ancient giants, which makes it 3 times larger than regular giants. It has this distinctive horned helmet, and its face and lower body are covered by grills with vertical bars. The left horn on its helmet broke off over 200 years ago and is still missing, showing the damage it sustained during its last period of activity. What makes the Iron Giant so special isn't just its size or age, it's the fact that it was created to be a friend and ally to Joy Boy himself. This means it's not just a weapon or a tool, but a companion that was designed to help the legendary Liberator in his mission. The relationship between Joy Boy and Emmett shows us that the advanced technology of the Void Century wasn't just about creating powerful weapons, but about creating bonds and partnerships between people and machines. The ancient energy source. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Iron Giant has always been what powers it. Vegapunk, the smartest man in the current world, studied this robot extensively, but could never figure out how to replicate its power source. He described it as ancient energy that defies all current knowledge and logic. The answer to this mystery became clear when Luffy activated Gear 5, and the Iron Giant suddenly came to life. The Iron Giant is powered by the Drums of Liberation, EAT, the sound of Luffy's heartbeat when he's transformed into the sun god Nika. This isn't just any kind of energy, it's specifically the power of liberation and freedom that Nika represents. This connection explains so much about the ancient kingdom and their technology. They weren't just creating machines powered by regular energy sources like electricity or fuel. They were creating technology that responded to ideals, emotions, and the power of human will. The Iron Giant only activates when it hears the heartbeat of someone who truly embodies the spirit of liberation. The 200-year mystery. One of the most confusing aspects of the Iron Giant story is what happened 200 years ago. According to the records, Emmett suddenly appeared and climbed the Red Line, reaching all the way to Mary Geoise, where it seemed to attack the Celestial Dragons. However, before it could cause major damage, the robot ran out of power and shut down. This creates a huge mystery because the 5 elders have stated that the Nika fruit hadn't awakened for 800 years before Luffy. So how did the Iron Giant activate 200 years ago if there was no one with Nika's power to fuel it? Several theories have emerged to explain this puzzle. One possibility is that someone else briefly awakened the power of Nika 200 years ago but failed to maintain it or died before they could accomplish their goals. Another theory involves Amatsuki Toki, the time-traveling woman who eventually married Kozuki Odin. Since she could travel through time from the Void Century, she might have jumped to 200 years ago, somehow activated the Iron Giant, and then continued forward to Odin's time period. Joy Boy's hidden weapon. Perhaps the most incredible revelation about the Iron Giant is that Joy Boy sealed a portion of his Supreme King haki within it. This wasn't just any regular haki. It was a concentrated burst of the legendary Liberator's own willpower, stored like a battery for use in dire circumstances. The haki was so powerful that when Emmet finally released it during the Egghead arc, it traveled for incredible distances and was strong enough to cancel the Devil Fruit transformation powers of all 5 elders simultaneously. This forced them out of their awakened mythical Zoan forms and essentially ended their assault on the island. This shows us that Joy Boy wasn't just powerful in terms of Devil Fruit abilities, his haki was so incredibly strong that even a portion of it, stored for 800 years, could overpower 5 of the strongest beings in the current world. It also demonstrates the level of planning and preparation that went into the Ancient Kingdom's fight against their enemies. The Drums of Liberation. The connection between the Iron Giant and the Drums of Liberation reveals something fascinating about how ancient technology worked. The drums aren't just a sound effect for the audience, they're an actual power source that can awaken dormant machines from the Void Century. When Luffy first activated Gear 5 during his fight with Kizaru, the Drums of Liberation resonated across all of Egghead Island. This sound reached the Iron Giant in the scrapyard and caused its eyes to light up for the first time in 200 years. Later, when Luffy maintained his Gear 5 form for an extended period, the Iron Giant finally got enough power to start moving again. This suggests that the Ancient Kingdom had developed technology that was specifically designed to respond to the power of Nika. They weren't just creating random machines. They were building a network of devices that would activate when the Sun God returned. This level of coordination and long-term planning shows just how advanced their civilization really was. Emmet's relationship with Joy Boy. The personal relationship between Emmet and Joy Boy adds an emotional dimension to this ancient technology that we've never seen before. This wasn't just a tool that Joy Boy used, it was a friend who cared about him and shared his goals. When Emmet finally woke up during the Egghead arc, one of the first things it did was mentally apologize to Joy Boy. The exact words were, "Joy Boy, I'm sorry I couldn't make you king." This suggests that Emmet had some kind of mission or purpose related to helping Joy Boy achieve his goals. But for some reason, it wasn't able to fulfill that mission 800 years ago. The fact that it's still carrying this guilt after all these centuries shows the depth of its loyalty and friendship. This relationship also tells us something important about Joy Boy himself. He wasn't just a powerful warrior or leader. He was someone who could form genuine bonds with artificial beings. This suggests that the Ancient Kingdom's technology wasn't just advanced in terms of capabilities, but also in terms of consciousness and emotion. Ancient Technology Network. The Iron Giant appears to be part of a larger network of ancient technology that's scattered throughout the One Piece world. We've seen hints of this in other locations, like the automated machines on the moon that Enel discovered during his cover story. These devices all seem to be waiting for some kind of activation signal. The Drums of Liberation might be the key that awakens all of this dormant technology. If there are other ancient machines hidden around the world, Luffy's presence and his awakened powers could potentially bring them all back to life. This would give the forces fighting against the world government access to technology that's centuries ahead of anything currently available. This network concept also explains why the world government has been so determined to prevent the awakening of the Nika fruit. It's not just that they're afraid of one powerful individual. They're afraid of what that individual might be able to activate and control. The true purpose of ancient technology. The Iron Giant story reveals something important about the philosophy behind the Ancient Kingdom's technology. They weren't just trying to create the most powerful weapons possible. They were trying to create tools that would serve the cause of liberation and freedom. Emmet was designed to help Joy Boy in his mission to free people from oppression. Its power source comes from the ideals of liberation rather than just raw energy. Even its ultimate weapon, Joy Boy's stored haki, was meant to be used only in dire circumstances to protect those who carry on the fight for freedom. This stands in stark contrast to the world government's approach to technology. They create things like the Seraphim and Pacifistas that are designed to maintain control and crush opposition. The ancient technology represents a completely different vision of what science and engineering should be used for. Emmet's sacrifice. During the climax of the Egghead arc, Emmet made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that Luffy and his allies could escape. It used Joy Boy's stored haki as a one-time weapon, knowing that this would drain all of its remaining power and leave it unable to continue functioning. This sacrifice parallels Joy Boy's own story in many ways. Both of them were willing to give everything they had to help others achieve freedom, even if it meant they couldn't see the final victory themselves. Emmet's final act was to ensure that the new Joy Boy, Luffy, could continue the mission that the original Joy Boy had started. The emotional weight of this sacrifice is incredible when you consider that Emmet had been waiting 800 years for the chance to help Joy Boy again. When that opportunity finally came, it didn't hesitate to give everything it had, just like it probably did during the original conflict in the Void Century. Connection to other ancient mysteries. The Iron Giant's story connects to many other mysteries in the One Piece world. Its relationship with Joy Boy helps explain why certain groups and locations have been waiting for his return. The Sea Kings, the people of Fishman Island, and various pieces of ancient technology have all been anticipating the day when Joy Boy would come back to fulfill his promises. The robot's presence also raises questions about other ancient technology that might still be hidden around the world. If one Iron Giant survived for 800 years, there might be others waiting to be discovered. The world government has probably been working to find and destroy these remnants to prevent them from being activated. What this means for Luffy. The Iron Giant's awakening represents an important milestone in Luffy's journey to becoming the true successor to Joy Boy. It's not enough for him to just have the same devil fruit powers. He needs to prove that he carries the same spirit and determination that made Joy Boy special. Emmet's recognition of Luffy as the new Joy Boy validates his growth and shows that he's ready to take on the responsibilities that come with that role. The ancient technology responding to his presence means that he's not just fighting with his own strength, but with the accumulated power and wisdom of an entire lost civilization. The broader implications. The Iron Giant story has huge implications for the final conflict in One Piece. If ancient technology starts awakening around the world in response to Luffy's presence, it could completely change the balance of power. The world government might suddenly find themselves facing not just the current generation of pirates and revolutionaries, but the accumulated resistance of 800 years. This also suggests that the final battle might not just be about the current conflict, but about finishing the war that started during the Void Century. Joy Boy and his allies weren't completely defeated. They were just waiting for the right moment to continue their fight for liberation. The Iron Giant Emmet was created during the Void Century as a friend and ally to Joy Boy, powered by the drums of liberation that come from Luffy's awakened Nika powers. After lying dormant for 200 years, it awakened when it heard Luffy's heartbeat in Gear 5, revealing that ancient technology was designed to respond to the power of liberation. Joy Boy had sealed a portion of his Supreme King Haki within Emmet as a final weapon, which it used to help Luffy escape by overpowering all 5 elders. The robot story shows that the ancient kingdom created technology based on ideals rather than just power, and its sacrifice continues Joy Boy's mission of liberation through Luffy. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to ancient technology, powered by Nika's energy. Ancient technology, powered by Nika's energy. Moving forward, we've got ancient technology powered by Nika's energy, and this revelation completely changes how we understand the lost civilization of the Void Century. We're not just talking about advanced machines or better weapons, we're looking at an entire technological system that was built around the power of liberation itself. This discovery shows us that the ancient kingdom wasn't just more advanced than the current world. They had a completely different philosophy about what technology should be and how it should work. A revolutionary power source. For years, we've wondered how the ancient kingdom could have been so far ahead of everyone else technologically. Vegapunk, the smartest person in the current world, has spent his entire life trying to understand and recreate ancient technology, but he's always been missing one crucial piece of the puzzle. Number 2, the power source. The Iron Giant and other ancient machines aren't powered by electricity, fuel, or any conventional energy source that modern science can understand. Instead, they run on what Vegapunk calls ancient energy, which he describes as power that defies all current knowledge and logic. The breakthrough came when we learned that this mysterious energy is actually the Drums of Liberation, ICS, the heartbeat of someone who has awakened the power of Nika. This means the ancient kingdom built their entire technological civilization around the concept of liberation and freedom. Their machines don't just run on any kind of energy. They specifically require the presence of someone who truly embodies the spirit of freeing others from oppression. It's like they designed their technology to only work for people who share their values and goals. How the Drums of Liberation work. The Drums of Liberation aren't just a cool sound effect that plays when Luffy transforms into Gear 5. They're an actual measurable form of energy that can power ancient machines and awaken dormant technology. When Luffy's heart beats in his awakened form, it creates these rhythmic sounds that carry the essence of Nika's power. We first saw this in action when Luffy fought Kizaru on Egghead. The moment he activated Gear 5, his Drums of Liberation spread across the entire island and reached the Iron Giant in the scrapyard. For the first time in 200 years, the robot's eyes lit up as it received power from this ancient energy source. But it wasn't until Luffy maintained his Gear 5 form for an extended period that the Iron Giant received enough energy to actually start moving. This suggests that ancient technology requires sustained exposure to the Drums of Liberation to become fully operational. The longer someone maintains their awakened Nika powers, the more ancient machines they can potentially activate. Technology that chooses its users. What makes ancient technology so different from modern machines is that it seems to have the ability to choose who can use it. Regular technology works for anyone who knows how to operate it, but ancient devices only respond to people who carry the right kind of energy and spirit. This selective activation means that the ancient kingdom wasn't just creating powerful tools, they were creating safeguards to ensure their technology could only be used by people who shared their values. A machine that only works for someone with the spirit of liberation can never be turned into a tool of oppression. This explains why the world government has never been able to fully utilize ancient technology, despite having access to some artifacts over the centuries. They might be able to study these machines and learn from their design, but they can never actually make them work because they don't possess the ideological purity required to activate them. The network effect. The ancient technology doesn't seem to exist in isolation. Instead, it appears to be part of a vast network that was designed to work together. The Iron Giant was just one piece of a much larger system that spanned the entire world. When the Drums of Liberation activate one machine, they might potentially awaken others across great distances. We've seen hints of this network in various places throughout the One Piece world. The automated machines that Enel discovered on the moon during his cover story appeared to be similar to ancient technology, and they were all in some kind of dormant state waiting for activation. There might be similar devices hidden on islands throughout the Grand Line and beyond. This network concept suggests that the ancient kingdom had a level of global coordination and planning that far exceeds anything we see in the current world. They weren't just building individual machines. They were creating an interconnected system that could be activated all at once when the time was right. Why? This energy source makes sense. The idea of technology powered by ideals and emotions might sound strange, but it actually fits perfectly with everything we know about the One Piece world. Throughout the series, we've seen how powerful human will and determination can be. People accomplish impossible things through sheer force of conviction, and devil fruits themselves might be manifestations of human desires and dreams. If human will is already capable of creating physical changes in the world, then it makes sense that an advanced civilization would figure out how to harness that power directly. Instead of burning fossil fuels or splitting atoms, they learned to convert the energy of liberation itself into a usable power source. This also explains why their technology was so much more advanced than anything that came after. Modern science tries to understand the world through purely physical laws, but the ancient kingdom understood that consciousness and intention are also fundamental forces that can be manipulated and utilized. The philosophical implications. Ancient technology powered by Nika's energy represents a completely different philosophy about the relationship between people and their tools. In the current world, technology is generally seen as something separate from its users. A machine is just a machine, regardless of who operates it. But ancient technology was designed to be an extension of its users' will and values. A machine powered by the spirit of liberation becomes part of the liberation movement itself. It's not just a tool being used for a purpose. It's an active participant in the struggle for freedom. This philosophical approach explains why the ancient kingdom was so threatening to the 20 kingdoms that would eventually form the world government. It wasn't just that they had better weapons or more advanced machines. They had created a technological system that was fundamentally incompatible with oppression and control. Examples throughout the series. Looking back through One Piece with this new understanding, we can see hints of ancient technology in various places. The knock-up stream that launches ships to Sky Island might be powered by some kind of ancient mechanism that responds to the dreams and determination of those who ride it. The Sea King's ability to hear the voice of all things and their connection to certain individuals might also be related to this ancient energy system. They've been waiting for Joy Boy's return for 800 years, and they seem to be able to sense when someone with the right kind of spirit is present. Even Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus, and Hiei, the three ancient weapons, might require this special energy source to function properly. This would explain why they've been dormant for so long and why specific people are needed to awaken or control them. The government's fear. The world government's terror of the Nika fruit awakening makes much more sense when we understand that it's not just about one powerful individual. They're afraid that awakening this power will trigger a cascade effect that brings ancient technology back to life all over the world. Imagine if liberation-powered machines suddenly started working again on every island where the ancient kingdom once had a presence. The current balance of power would be completely shattered as people gained access to technology that's centuries ahead of anything the government possesses. This fear also explains why the government has been so dedicated to erasing all knowledge of the Void Century. It's not just about hiding their crimes. They're trying to prevent people from understanding how to activate the very technology that could overthrow them. Limitations and requirements. Ancient technology powered by Nika's energy isn't unlimited or easily accessible. It requires the presence of someone who has truly awakened the power of liberation, and even then, it seems to have specific requirements and limitations. The Iron Giant needed sustained exposure to the drums of liberation before it could become fully operational. This suggests that activating ancient technology requires more than just a brief moment of awakened power, not 9/7. It needs prolonged contact with someone who genuinely embodies the spirit of Nika. There might also be moral or ethical requirements built into the technology. Perhaps ancient machines can somehow sense the true intentions of those trying to use them and will refuse to work for people whose goals don't align with the principles of liberation and freedom. The healing power. We've seen that Nika's energy doesn't just power machines. It also has healing and restorative properties. When Luffy transforms into Gear 5, his injuries seem to heal rapidly and his body becomes more resilient. This suggests that the energy of liberation has biological effects as well as mechanical ones. This dual nature means that ancient technology might not just be about creating powerful weapons or tools. Some of it could be designed for healing, restoration, or enhancement of living beings. The ancient kingdom might have developed medical technology that could cure diseases or extend lifespans, using the power of liberation. Creating versus destroying. One of the most important aspects of ancient technology is that it seems to be focused on creation and preservation rather than destruction. While modern weapons are designed to break things and hurt people, ancient technology appears to be built around the concept of freeing and empowering others. The Iron Giant's ultimate weapon wasn't a laser or bomb, it was a burst of Conqueror's Haki that forced the Five Elders to retreat without actually killing them. Even when defending itself and others, ancient technology seems to prefer liberation over elimination. This creative focus explains why the ancient kingdom was able to achieve such incredible advances. Instead of spending their energy on better ways to destroy their enemies, they focused on better ways to help their allies and improve life for everyone. Future implications. As Luffy continues to develop his abilities as the awakened Nika, he might gain access to more and more ancient technology. Each time he uses Gear 5, he could potentially awaken dormant machines that have been waiting for centuries to serve the cause of liberation again. This could lead to a complete reversal of the current power balance in the world. Instead of the world government having all the advanced technology, while pirates and revolutionaries make do with whatever they can find, the forces of freedom might suddenly have access to the most advanced civilization in history. The environmental connection. Ancient technology powered by liberation energy might also help solve some of the environmental problems in the One Piece world. Vegapunk has hinted at connections between devil fruits, rising sea levels, and environmental disasters from the past. If the ancient kingdom's technology was powered by renewable, emotion-based energy rather than resource extraction, it might represent a more sustainable way of life. The return of this technology could help heal the damage that centuries of conventional development have caused to the world. Learning from the past. The discovery of how ancient technology works gives modern scientists like Vegapunk a completely new direction for their research. Instead of trying to create more powerful weapons or more efficient machines, they could focus on developing technology that responds to human will and emotion. This could lead to a new era of scientific development where the tools people create are extensions of their values and intentions rather than separate objects that can be used for any purpose. Technology that chooses its users based on their moral character could help prevent many of the problems that arise from powerful tools falling into the wrong hand. Summary: ancient technology from the Void Century is powered by the Drums of Liberation, EYMO, the heartbeat energy that comes from someone who has awakened the power of Nika. This explains why machines like the Iron Giant remained dormant for 800 years until Luffy activated Gear 5, and why Vegapunk couldn't replicate their power source despite his genius. The ancient kingdom built their entire technological civilization around the concept of liberation, creating machines that only work for people who truly embody the spirit of freedom. This network of ancient devices was designed to awaken when Joy Boy returned, potentially giving the forces of liberation access to technology that's centuries ahead of the current world and fundamentally incompatible with oppression. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Devil Fruits as Ancient Kingdom Technology. Devil Fruits as Ancient Kingdom Technology. Now we've got Devil Fruits as Ancient Kingdom Technology. And this theory completely revolutionizes everything we thought we knew about the most fundamental power system in One Piece. For over 25 years, devil fruits have been treated as mysterious, naturally occurring objects that just happened to exist in the world. But Vegapunk's research suggests something far more incredible. These aren't natural phenomena at all, but sophisticated technological tools created by the most advanced civilization in history, the technology behind the magic. When we first learned about devil fruits, they seemed like pure magic. Eat a strange fruit and gain incredible powers. Day cold and misty. It was simple and mysterious. But as the series progressed, we started seeing hints that there might be more scientific explanations behind these abilities. Vegapunk's artificial devil fruit for Momonosuke, Caesar's research into artificial zoans, and the development of green blood all pointed toward devil fruits being something that could be understood and replicated through science. Vegapunk suggests that devil fruits were technological tools created by the ancient kingdom, potentially as weapons or utilities in their advanced civilization. This means that every devil fruit we've ever seen, from Luffy's rubber powers to Whitebeard's earthquake abilities, represents a piece of technology that was deliberately designed and created by people who lived 800 to 900 years ago. Think about how incredible this island. The ancient kingdom didn't just discover devil fruits or find them lying around, they actually invented them. They figured out how to take human desires and dreams and turn them into physical objects that could grant those exact powers to whoever consumed them. This level of technological achievement is so far beyond anything in the current world that it seems like magic to people today. The manufacturing process. If devil fruits are technology rather than natural phenomena, then the ancient kingdom must have had some kind of manufacturing process for creating them. This wasn't just a matter of growing special trees or finding rare materials. They were somehow able to take abstract concepts like fire, ice, or gravity and encode them into fruit-shaped objects. The process probably involved understanding human psychology and desire on a level that current science can't even imagine. They would need to analyze what people hoped for, what they feared, and what kinds of powers would represent different aspects of human nature. Then they would have to find a way to crystallize those concepts into stable, transferable form. This explains why devil fruits come in such specific categories. Paramecia fruits represent changes to the human body or unusual abilities. Zoan fruits represent the human desire to connect with animal nature. Logia fruits represent the desire to become one with natural forces. These aren't random categories. They're different product lines, created by ancient engineers who understood exactly what kinds of powers would be most useful or appealing. The true purpose. Understanding devil fruits as ancient kingdom technology completely changes how we think about their original purpose. They weren't created randomly or for entertainment, They were designed as tools to help people in specific ways. Some might have been intended as weapons for defending against the 20 kingdoms that would eventually destroy the ancient kingdom. Others might have been utilities designed to help with construction, agriculture, or other civilian tasks. The Nika fruit, for example, was probably designed specifically as a leadership and liberation tool. Its powers are perfectly suited for freeing people from oppression and inspiring them to fight for their freedom. The ancient kingdom might have created it knowing that they would need someone with those exact abilities to help them in their struggle against their enemies. Other fruits might have been designed for more mundane but equally important purposes. Caesar's gas powers could have been intended for atmospheric engineering or industrial processes. Kuma's paw powers might have been designed for transportation or medical applications. The ancient kingdom was thinking about the practical applications of these abilities, not just their combat potential. Why the world government suppresses the truth. The world government's suppression of information about devil fruit's true nature makes perfect sense once we understand that they're ancient kingdom technology. If people realize that devil fruits were created by the civilization that the world government destroyed, it would raise uncomfortable questions about what else that civilization might have achieved and why it needed to be eliminated. More importantly, understanding the technological nature of devil fruits might help people figure out how to create new ones or enhance existing abilities. The world government wants to maintain their monopoly on advanced technology, and they definitely don't want their enemies gaining access to the scientific principles behind devil fruit creation. There's also the psychological impact to consider. The world government has spent 800 years convincing people that they represent progress and civilization, while the ancient kingdom was somehow primitive or dangerous. If people learned that the ancient kingdom was capable of creating technology that seems like magic even today, it would completely undermine the government's claims about their own superiority. The environmental connection. One of the most disturbing implications of devil fruits being artificial technology is what it means for the environment of the One Piece world. Vegapunk hints at a connection between devil fruits and rising sea levels that submerged large portions of the ancient world, suggesting their creation may have had unintended consequences. If the ancient kingdom was mass-producing devil fruits or using the underlying technology on a massive scale, it might have caused environmental disasters that contributed to their own downfall. The creation of artificial evolutionary paths for humanity might have disrupted natural processes in ways that the ancient scientists didn't anticipate. This could explain why so much of the One Piece world is covered by ocean and why there are so many scattered islands instead of large continents. The world might have been much more connected before the ancient kingdom's experiments with devil fruit technology triggered global flooding or other catastrophic changes. The lineage factor connection. The discovery of the lineage factor, ISA, essentially DNA in the One Piece world, provides a scientific framework for understanding how devil fruit technology might work. If devil fruits can modify human genetics or add new biological capabilities, then they're essentially sophisticated genetic engineering tools disguised as fruit. This explains how Vegapunk has been able to replicate some devil fruit abilities through his research. He's not just copying the effects, he's reverse engineering the genetic modifications that the original fruits were designed to create. The green blood used in the Seraphim represents his attempt to recreate ancient kingdom biotechnology using modern scientific methods. The lineage factor also explains how devil fruit abilities can be transferred or inherited in some cases. If the powers are encoded in genetic material, then they can potentially be extracted, copied, or passed down through biological processes. Different generations of technology. Not all devil fruits are created equal, and this makes more sense if we think of them as representing different generations or models of ancient kingdom technology. Some fruits, like basic paramecia types, might represent early experiments or mass-produced models designed for general use. Mythical Zoan fruits, on the other hand, appear to be premium models designed for specific, high-level applications. The Nika fruit, for example, seems to have been custom-designed for leadership and liberation purposes. These rare fruits might have been created for specific individuals or roles within ancient kingdom society. Logia fruits could represent a specialized line of technology designed for people who needed to interact with natural forces. The ancient kingdom might have had entire departments of researchers working on different types of elemental manipulation technology. The awakening process. Devil Fruit Awakening makes much more sense when we understand these powers as technology rather than magic. Awakening isn't just about getting stronger or training harder. It's about fully understanding and utilizing the technology that's been implanted in your body. Most Devil Fruit users only access basic functions of their abilities, like using a smartphone just for making phone calls. Awakening represents learning to use the advanced features and capabilities that the original designers built into the system. This is why Awakening often involves fundamental changes to how the power works, rather than just increases in strength. The rarity of Awakening also makes sense from a technological perspective. Most people don't have the technical understanding or the right mindset to fully utilize advanced technology. It requires a deep understanding of what the power is supposed to do and how it's supposed to work. Mass production versus custom creation. The ancient kingdom probably had both mass-produced devil fruits for general distribution and custom-created fruits for specific purposes or individuals. The more common paramecia and basic zoan fruits might have been manufactured in large quantities for civilian or military use. The really unique and powerful fruits, like the Nika fruit or the various ancient zoan types, were probably one-of-a-kind creations designed for specific roles or people. This would explain why some fruits are so much rarer and more powerful than others. They represent different tiers of ancient kingdom technology. This also explains why some devil fruits seem perfectly suited for their users, while others feel more generic. Fruits that were custom designed would naturally work better than mass-produced models that were created for general use. The replication challenge. Modern scientists like Vegapunk have been trying to replicate devil fruit technology, but they're essentially trying to reverse engineer devices that are centuries ahead of their time. It's like trying to build a smartphone using tools and knowledge from the 1800s. You might be able to copy some basic functions, but you'll miss most of the sophisticated features. Vegapunk's artificial devil fruit for Momonosuke was considered a failure simply because it was pink instead of blue, but it actually worked perfectly in terms of granting dragon powers. This suggests that he's very close to understanding the basic principles, but he still lacks the advanced techniques that the ancient kingdom used to create perfect replicas. The green blood technology represents another approach to the problem. Instead of creating new devil fruits, Vegapunk is trying to extract and synthesize the active components that grant the powers. This might be easier than creating entirely new fruits, but it still requires a deep understanding of how the original technology works. Implications for the future. If devil fruits are ancient kingdom technology, then understanding their true nature could lead to incredible advances in the current world. Scientists might be able to create new types of devil fruits designed for specific modern needs, or develop ways to enhance or modify existing abilities. However, this knowledge also comes with dangers. If devil fruit creation contributed to environmental disasters in the past, then recreating that technology could lead to similar problems in the present. The power to create artificial evolutionary paths for humanity is the kind of technology that could easily be misused. The moral questions. Understanding devil fruits as artificial technology raises some serious ethical questions. If these powers were created by people, then someone made the decision to give certain individuals incredible advantages over others. The social inequality created by devil fruits isn't just a natural occurrence, it's the result of conscious choices made by ancient scientists. There's also the question of consent. Most devil fruit users eat their fruits without knowing what they're getting or understanding the full implications of their choice. If these are sophisticated pieces of technology that fundamentally alter human biology, shouldn't people have a right to understand what they're putting in their bodies? The government's modern approach. The world government's current approach to devil fruits makes more sense when we understand that they know these are ancient kingdom artifacts. Instead of trying to ban or destroy them, they're working to control and study them. The Seraphim Project represents their attempt to monopolize devil fruit technology without relying on unpredictable human users. By creating artificial beings that can use devil fruit abilities without actually eating the fruits, the government is trying to separate the technology from the human element. They want the power without the risk of independent-minded individuals who might use those abilities against them. The true legacy. The revelation that devil fruits are ancient kingdom technology means that these powers represent the true legacy of the most advanced civilization in history. Every time someone uses a devil fruit ability, they're utilizing tools created by people who understood human nature and scientific principles far better than anyone alive today. This makes devil fruit users unwitting inheritors of ancient kingdom knowledge and technology. They might not understand what they're using or where it came from, but they're carrying forward the scientific achievements of a civilization that was destroyed for trying to create a better world. Summary: devil fruits aren't natural phenomena but sophisticated technological tools created by the ancient kingdom as weapons and utilities for their advanced civilization. This explains why the world government suppresses research into their true nature. They don't want people to realize these powers come from the civilization they destroyed. The technology behind devil fruits involved converting human desires and dreams into transferable genetic modifications, with different fruit types representing various product lines designed for specific purposes. Understanding this reveals that devil fruit awakening means fully utilizing ancient technology. Environmental disasters might have resulted from mass production, and modern scientists like Vegapunk are essentially trying to reverse engineer devices that are centuries ahead of their time. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the 5 Elders' demonic transformations. The 5 Elders' demonic transformations. Moving on, we've got the 5 Elders' demonic transformations, and this revelation absolutely shattered everything we thought we knew about the world government's leadership. For the entire series, the 5 Elders were presented as these mysterious old men who sat in a room making political decisions. Nobody could have predicted that they were actually some of the most powerful fighters in the entire One Piece world, capable of transforming into terrifying mythical creatures that seem almost impossible to defeat. The shocking reveal. For over 20 years of One Piece, the 5 Elders seemed like typical political leaders. Old, powerful, but not particularly threatening in terms of physical combat. They were the guys making decisions from behind desks, not the type of people you'd expect to see throwing punches or wielding swords. When St. J. Garcia Saturn first appeared on Egghead Island, fans thought he might be strong, but nobody was prepared for what actually happened. The 5 Elders possess mythical Zoan devil fruits that transform them into demonic creatures with regenerative abilities, revealed during their direct combat against Luffy and the Straw Hats on Egghead. Saturn transformed into this horrifying spider-like creature with massive horns, resembling the Ushi Oni from Japanese folklore. This wasn't just a strong old man. This was a literal monster with powers that seemed to break the normal rules of how devil fruits work. What makes these transformations so shocking is how they completely change our understanding of the world government's power structure. These aren't just political leaders who happen to be strong. They're essentially gods walking among mortals, with abilities that put them on the same level as the strongest characters we've ever seen in the series. The nature of their powers. The 5 Elders' devil fruits aren't just any mythical Zoans. They appear to be based on demonic or supernatural entities from various mythologies. Each Elder transforms into a different type of creature, and all of them have abilities that seem designed for both combat and intimidation. Saturn's spider form comes with extreme venom in his legs that can poison enemies, a life-ending gaze that can kill people just by looking at them, and ultimate regeneration abilities that let him recover from almost any injury. These aren't normal devil fruit powers, nor. They're more like supernatural curses or divine abilities. Marcus Mars transforms into what appears to be a giant bird-like creature. Topman Warcurry becomes some kind of massive boar or beast. Shepherd Jupiter takes the form of an enormous worm-like creature, and Ethan Baron V. News Juro becomes a skeletal horse-like monster. Each transformation is more terrifying than the last, and all of them seem capable of causing massive destruction. Why they hid their true power? The fact that the 5 Elders kept their true abilities secret for so long tells us a lot about how the world government operates. They could have used these powers to directly crush any opposition, but instead, they chose to work from the shadows and let others handle the fighting for them. This suggests that the Elders understand something important about power and M&H. Sometimes it's more effective to appear weak while actually being incredibly strong. By letting people think they were just old politicians, they could operate without anyone realizing just how dangerous they really were. Pirates and revolutionaries might plot against the world government, thinking they only had to worry about Marines and Cypher Pole agents, never realizing that the leadership itself was more powerful than most emperors. The secrecy also serves a psychological purpose. The world government has always tried to present itself as the legitimate, civilized authority in the world. Having their leaders transform into demonic monsters doesn't exactly support that image. It's much easier to maintain the illusion of being the good guys when people don't know you're literally creatures from nightmares. The ultimate authority. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Five Elders' power isn't just their individual strength, but their authority over other powerful forces. They have ultimate authority over the Pacifista and Seraphim, even above their creator, Dr. Vegapunk. This means they can command armies of cyborg super soldiers, while also personally fighting at a level that rivals the strongest pirates in the world. This combination of personal power and institutional authority makes them perhaps the most dangerous enemies the protagonists have ever faced. It's one thing to fight a strong individual, but it's completely different to fight someone who is personally incredibly powerful and also commands vast military resources. The Elders' authority also extends to other government organizations. They can call in marine fleets, deploy Cypher Pole agents, and utilize any other world government resources while also participating directly in combat. This makes them incredibly difficult to defeat because even if you can match their personal strength, you still have to deal with all the forces they can command. Their immortality and regeneration. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Five Elders' abilities is their apparent immortality. During the Egghead arc, we saw Saturn take massive amounts of damage that would kill any normal person, only to regenerate completely within moments. His head was blown off, his body was destroyed, and he kept coming back as if nothing had happened. This regenerative ability appears to be shared by all the Elders, making them incredibly difficult to defeat through conventional means. Even if you can overpower them temporarily, they'll just heal and come back stronger. This kind of immortality is extremely rare in One Piece, and it suggests that the Elders have access to power sources that go beyond normal Devil Fruit abilities. The regeneration also seems to extend beyond just physical damage. The Elders appear to be immune to aging, fatigue, and most forms of harm that would affect normal humans. This makes them functionally immortal, which explains how they've been able to maintain power for so long and why they're so confident in their ability to control the world. The connection to Imu. The Five Elders' incredible power becomes even more significant when we consider their relationship with Imu, the true ruler of the world government. If the Elders are this powerful, and they still serve someone else, then Imu must be operating on a completely different level of strength and authority. This hierarchy suggests that the world government's true power structure is based on supernatural abilities rather than just political authority. Imu sits at the top not just because of their position, but because they're more powerful than beings who are already impossibly strong. The Five Elders might be demonic monsters, but they're still subordinate to whatever Imu really island. The fact that all Five Elders willingly serve Imu also tells us something about the nature of their organization. These aren't just temporary alliances or political arrangements, they're part of a supernatural hierarchy that's been in place for centuries. Their combat capabilities. When the Five Elders finally revealed their true forms during the Egghead arc, their combat abilities proved to be absolutely terrifying. They could move at incredible speeds, deal massive damage, and coordinate their attacks in ways that suggested centuries of experience fighting together. Each Elder seems to have specialized abilities that complement the others. Saturn's Venom and Death Gaze provide crowd control and area denial. Mars's aerial abilities give them reconnaissance and mobility. Warcurry's brute strength can break through almost any defense. Jupiter's size and reach allow him to control large areas. Nusjiro's speed and sword skills make him incredibly dangerous in direct combat. When all Five Elders work together, they represent a level of coordinated power that's unlike anything else in the series. They've clearly fought as a unit for a very long time, and their teamwork is so seamless that they can execute complex strategies without even needing to communicate. The psychological impact. The revelation of the Five Elders' true forms has a massive psychological impact that goes beyond just their fighting ability. For characters in the One Piece world, learning that their government is literally ruled by demons is the kind of revelation that can shake people's entire worldview. This transformation also explains some of the more mysterious aspects of the world government's behavior over the centuries. Their willingness to commit genocide, their complete lack of empathy for human suffering, and their obsession with maintaining control all make more sense when you realize they're not actually human themselves. For the Straw Hats and other protagonists, facing the Five Elders means confronting enemies who are fundamentally different from any they've fought before. These aren't just strong humans or even regular Devil Fruit users. They're supernatural entities with powers that seem to come from sources beyond normal understanding. The historical implications. The Five Elders' demonic nature raises serious questions about the true history of the world government and the Void Century. If these beings have been in power for centuries or even longer, then they might have been personally involved in the destruction of the Ancient Kingdom and other historical atrocities. This longevity also suggests that the world government's oppressive policies aren't the result of human corruption or gradual moral decay. USS. They're the natural behavior of inhuman creatures who have been manipulating human civilization for their own purposes. The Elders might not even see regular humans as the same species as themselves. Their supernatural nature also explains how the world government has been able to maintain such tight control over information and historical records. Regular human governments might eventually have their secrets exposed or their authority challenged, but demonic entities with supernatural powers can maintain their grip on power almost indefinitely. Weaknesses and limitations. Despite their incredible power, the Five Elders do have some limitations. We saw during the Egghead arc that they can be forced out of their transformed states by powerful conquerors' Haki, as happened when the Iron Giant released Joy Boy's stored Haki. This suggests that their demonic forms, while incredibly powerful, aren't completely invincible. Sufficient force or the right type of energy can disrupt their transformations and force them back into their human forms. This provides a potential strategy for defeating them, though it would require an enormous amount of power to pull off. The Elders also seem to have some kind of connection to their base of power in Mary Geoise. When they were displaced by the Iron Giant's Haki burst, they were sent back to their headquarters rather than simply being knocked down. This might indicate that their power is somehow tied to specific locations or conditions. Individual Elder analysis. Each of the Five Elders has distinct abilities and characteristics that make them unique threats. J. Garcia Saturn, who was in charge of science and defense, showed abilities related to poison, death, and regeneration. His spider-like form was particularly disturbing because it combined the worst aspects of both arachnids and demons. Marcus Mars, Topman Warkery, Shepard Jew Peter, and Ethan Baron V. Newsjuro each represent different types of supernatural threats. Their diverse abilities mean that fighting all five at once requires dealing with multiple different types of attacks and defenses simultaneously. The specialization of each Elder also suggests that they've been deliberately chosen or designed to complement each other. This isn't a random collection of powerful individuals, it's a carefully constructed team where each member fills a specific role in their overall strategy. The true nature of world government. The revelation of the Five Elders' demonic transformations fundamentally changes how we understand the world government as an organization. This isn't just a human political institution that has become corrupt over time. It's a supernatural entity that has been masquerading as a legitimate government while actually being ruled by inhuman creatures. This explains why the world government's actions often seem so disconnected from normal human morality and empathy. They're not making decisions based on human values because they're not actually human themselves. Their policies are designed to benefit supernatural entities who see regular humans as resources to be managed rather than people to be served. What this means for the final conflict. The Five Elders' true power level completely changes the stakes for the final conflict in One Piece. The protagonists aren't just fighting against a corrupt government, they're fighting against supernatural entities with centuries of experience and power that seems to come from beyond normal devil fruit abilities. This revelation also suggests that the final battle will require more than just physical strength to win. If the Elders can regenerate from almost any damage and have supernatural abilities beyond normal devil fruits, then defeating them will require understanding the true source of their power and finding ways to counter abilities that seem almost godlike. The fact that Joy Boy's Haki could force them to retreat gives hope that there are ways to fight back against their power, but it also shows that only the strongest possible techniques and abilities will be effective against them. The Five Elders possess mythical Zoan devil fruits that transform them into terrifying demonic creatures with near-immortal regenerative abilities, revealed when they directly fought Luffy during the Egghead arc. Each Elder becomes a different supernatural monster based on various mythologies, with powers that include deadly gazes, extreme venom, and incredible physical strength. They have ultimate authority over all world government forces, including Seraphim and Pacifistas, making them both personally powerful and institutionally dangerous. Their demonic nature explains the world government's inhuman policies over centuries, and suggests the final conflict will require more than normal strength to defeat beings who can regenerate from almost any damage and possess supernatural abilities beyond typical devil fruit powers. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to York's betrayal and celestial dragon ambitions. York's betrayal and celestial dragon ambitions. Next up, we've got York's betrayal and celestial dragon ambitions. And this plot twist completely caught everyone off guard while revealing some of the darkest aspects of how power and corruption work in the One Piece world. York, one of Dr. Vegapunk's satellite bodies, committed one of the most shocking betrayals in the entire series by selling out her creator and her fellow satellites to the world government, all for the chance to become one of the very people she knew were monsters. The perfect inside job. York's betrayal was so effective precisely because it came from someone who had complete access to all of Vegapunk's research, plans, and security systems. As one of the 6 satellite bodies that shared Vegapunk's consciousness and memories, York knew everything about Egghead's defenses, the location of important research, and the daily routines of everyone on the island. York, the greed satellite of Vegapunk, betrayed her creator by informing the world government about his research, hoping to become a celestial dragon herself, despite knowing their despicable nature. This wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was a carefully planned scheme that had been in development for months before the Straw Hats ever arrived on Egghead. 3 months before the events of the Egghead arc, someone from the island contacted the 5 elders to inform them about Vegapunk's forbidden research into the Void Century. This person was York, who had been secretly feeding information to the world government while pretending to be loyal to her creator and fellow satellites. The greed that consumed everything. York's betrayal becomes even more disturbing when you consider what she represents within Vegapunk's split personality system. Each satellite embodies a different aspect of the original Vegapunk's character. Shaka represents his good side, Edison his thinking, Atlas his violence, Pythagoras his wisdom, and Lilith his evil side. York represents his greed and desire. The fact that the greed aspect of Vegapunk's personality was the one that turned traitor says something profound about how corruption works. Even in someone as brilliant and generally good-hearted as Vegapunk, the part of him that wants more power and status was vulnerable to the world government's influence. York's betrayal wasn't driven by ideology, revenge, or even fear. It was pure selfish ambition. She saw an opportunity to gain ultimate power and status, and she was willing to destroy everything and everyone she claimed to care about to get it. This makes her betrayal particularly cold and calculated. The Celestial Dragon Dream. What makes York's motivation so disturbing is that she fully understands how horrible the Celestial Dragons are, but she still wants to join them. When confronted about her actions, York revealed her wish to become a Celestial Dragon, despite knowing how despicable they were. She wasn't under any illusions about what these people do or what they represent. She just wanted to be on the winning side. This reveals something terrible about how absolute power can corrupt even the most intelligent people. York had access to all of Vegapunk's knowledge about history, science, and the true nature of the world government. She knew about the atrocities they had committed, the lies they had spread, and the suffering they had caused. But instead of using that knowledge to fight against them, she decided she wanted to join them. The Celestial Dragons represent everything that's wrong with the One Piece world. They're racist, violent, entitled, and completely lacking in empathy for other human beings. They treat regular people like animals and believe they have the right to do whatever they want to anyone they consider beneath them. York knew all of this, and she still thought it would be better to be one of them than to stand against them. The plan to eliminate everyone. York's betrayal wasn't just about giving information to the world government, NHS. She actively worked to eliminate everyone else on Egghead who might interfere with her plans. She shot and seemingly killed Shaka, one of her fellow satellites, in cold blood. She also orchestrated attacks on other satellites and worked to sabotage Egghead's defenses. With the world government en route to erase Vegapunk and his satellites, York devised a plan to get rid of all her obstacles, prompting her to instruct the Seraphim to kill everyone in the Frontier Dome, except for Stella and the people underneath the laboratory. She wanted to be the only Vegapunk left standing when the dust settled, positioning herself as the sole inheritor of all of Vegapunk's knowledge and research. This plan required York to literally murder her own family, The other satellites weren't just colleagues or co-workers. They were parts of the same person, sharing memories and experiences going back years. York was willing to destroy pieces of herself for the chance at power and status. The manipulation of ancient technology. One of the most dangerous aspects of York's betrayal was how she used her authority over Egghead's defenses against the very people those defenses were meant to protect. She turned the Seraphim, some of the most powerful weapons ever created, against Vegapunk and the Straw Hats. The Seraphim were programmed to obey authority figures in a specific hierarchy, and York's position as one of Vegapunk's satellites gave her the ability to command them. She used this authority to turn these incredibly dangerous weapons against her own allies, showing just how devastating an inside betrayal can be when it comes from someone with administrative access to powerful systems. This manipulation also demonstrates how dangerous it can be to create weapons that rely on authority-based control systems. The Seraphim were supposed to be perfectly loyal and safe because they only followed orders from trusted sources. But when one of those trusted sources turned traitor, the entire system became compromised. The psychology of betrayal. York's betrayal reveals something important about how different people respond to the same information and circumstances. All of Vegapunk's satellites had access to the same knowledge about the world government's crimes and the true history of the world. But while Shaka, Edison, Atlas, and Pythagoras used that knowledge to oppose the government, York decided to join them. This shows that having access to the truth doesn't automatically make someone choose the right side. Some people, when faced with overwhelming power and corruption, decide that it's better to be part of the problem than to fight against it. York looked at the world government's track record of destroying anyone who opposed them and decided she'd rather be on their side. The betrayal also demonstrates how greed can override every other consideration. York had relationships, responsibilities, and moral obligations to her fellow satellites and to Vegapunk himself. But her desire for power and status was stronger than any of those bonds. The practical consequences. York's betrayal had immediate and devastating consequences for everyone on Egghead. Her information allowed the world government to mount a coordinated attack on the island, bringing overwhelming force including Admiral Kizaru, St. J. Garcia Saturn, and a massive fleet of marine ships. Without York's inside information, the world government might never have known about Vegapunk's research into the Void Century, or they might have learned about it too late to stop his plans. Her betrayal directly led to the Egghead incident and put the lives of the Straw Hats, Vegapunk, and everyone else on the island in extreme danger. The betrayal also compromised Egghead's defenses at the worst possible moment. Just when they needed their security systems and powerful weapons the most, those same systems were turned against them by someone they trusted completely. The broader implications. York's betrayal represents something larger about how the world government maintains power. They don't just use force and intimidation. They also corrupt people from within, offering power and status to anyone willing to betray their own principles and allies. This strategy is particularly effective against people who are already in positions of authority or trust. By turning insiders into traitors, the world government can destroy organizations and movements from within, making it much harder for anyone to effectively oppose them. York's case also shows how the promise of joining the oppressor class can be more tempting than fighting for justice. Even when people know that the system is corrupt and harmful, some of them would rather try to climb to the top of that system than work to tear it down. The ultimate irony. There's a deep irony in York's betrayal and her ultimate fate. She betrayed everyone around her for the chance to become a celestial dragon, but her actions during the Egghead arc proved that she already had many of the worst qualities that make the celestial dragons so despicable. Her willingness to murder her own family for personal gain, her complete lack of empathy for the suffering she caused, and her sense of entitlement to power and status all demonstrate that she had already become the kind of person she wanted to join. The only difference was that she lacked the official title and recognition. In the end, York's pursuit of becoming a monster only succeeded in proving that she was already one. Her betrayal revealed that the corruption she admired in the celestial dragons was something she had internalized long before she ever contacted the Five Elders. The failure of compartmentalization. Vegapunk's decision to split his personality into different satellites was supposed to make him more efficient and capable, but York's betrayal showed the dangerous weakness of this system. By giving each satellite access to all of his knowledge and authority while embodying specific aspects of his personality, he created the possibility that one part of himself could turn against all the others. The The satellite system was designed to let Vegapunk explore different aspects of his personality and thinking without internal conflict. But it also meant that his worst impulses, his greed and desire for power, were given independent existence and the ability to act on those impulses without being restrained by his better nature. The response from others. The way other characters responded to York's betrayal reveals a lot about their own values and perspectives. The Straw Hats were shocked and disgusted by her actions, but they weren't entirely surprised. They've encountered enough corrupt and selfish people throughout their journey to understand that some individuals will always choose personal gain over doing the right thing. Vegapunk himself seemed more hurt than angry about York's betrayal. As her creator and the source of her consciousness, he probably felt some responsibility for her actions. The fact that one part of his own personality had become so corrupted was deeply troubling to someone who generally tried to use his abilities to help others. The larger pattern. York's betrayal fits into a larger pattern in One Piece, where the world government's greatest weapon isn't their military might or their advanced technology, even ability to corrupt people and turn them against their own interests and values. Throughout the series, we've seen how the promise of power, status, or simply survival can convince people to betray their friends, families, and principles. This corruption is particularly effective because it doesn't require the world government to convince people that they're the good guys. They just need to convince people that resistance is futile and that joining the winning side is the smart choice. York's betrayal shows how this strategy can work even on people who have complete knowledge of the government's crimes and corruption. The final outcome. In the end, York's betrayal achieved some of her immediate goals but failed to deliver what she really wanted. She survived the events of the Egghead arc and became a direct subordinate of the world government, but she didn't become a celestial dragon as she had hoped. Instead, she became a tool of people who will never truly accept her as one of their own. This outcome demonstrates the ultimate futility of trying to join an oppressive system from the outside. The world government was happy to use York's betrayal for their own purposes, but they had no intention of actually elevating her to the status she craved. She gave up everything for the promise of power that was never really on the table. York, Vegapunk's greed satellite, betrayed her creator and fellow satellites by secretly informing the world government about Forbidden Void Century research for months, hoping to become a celestial dragon despite knowing their despicable nature. Her betrayal involved murdering her own satellite family members and turning the Seraphim against their allies, demonstrating how the world government corrupts people by offering power and status to those willing to abandon their principles. York's cold calculation and complete lack of empathy revealed that she had already internalized the worst qualities of the celestial dragons she wanted to join, showing how greed can override knowledge, relationships, and moral obligations when someone decides it's better to join oppressors than fight them. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Vegapunk's Brain Fruit Enhancement. Vegapunk's Brain Fruit Enhancement. Moving forward, we've got Vegapunk's Brain Fruit Enhancement, and this revelation completely explains how one person became the smartest individual in the entire One Piece world. For years, we wondered how Dr. Vegapunk could be so far ahead of every other scientist and inventor on the planet. The answer turns out to be both fascinating and slightly horrifying. His incredible intelligence isn't just natural genius, but the result of a devil fruit that literally expanded his brain beyond human limitations. The source of ultimate intelligence. Dr. Vegapunk's extraordinary intelligence stems not just from natural genius, but from his devil fruit, the Nomi Brain fruit. This paramecia-type fruit dramatically amplifies cognitive abilities, allowing Vegapunk to process information at unprecedented speeds and retain vast amounts of knowledge that would be impossible for a normal human brain to handle. Think about how incredible this is. Vegapunk didn't just study really hard or have good teachers. He literally ate a devil fruit that enhanced his brain's capacity to learn, remember, and process information. This explains how he's been able to stay centuries ahead of other scientists and come up with inventions that seem impossible even to other geniuses in the One Piece world. The Brain Fruit works by expanding the user's cognitive abilities in every possible way. Memory storage, processing speed, analytical thinking, creative problem solving, and pattern recognition all get boosted to superhuman levels. It's like upgrading from a regular computer to a supercomputer, except the enhancement applies to every aspect of mental function. The physical consequences. The most dramatic and visible effect of Vegapunk's devil fruit power is what it did to his physical brain. So effective was the fruit's power that Vegapunk's brain physically outgrew his skull, forcing him to remove it and house it in the massive Punk Records facility on Egghead. This wasn't a choice he made for convenience. It was a biological necessity caused by his enhanced cognitive abilities. Imagine your brain becoming so powerful and active that it literally couldn't fit inside your head anymore. The brain fruit enhanced Vegapunk's mental capabilities so dramatically that his actual brain tissue expanded beyond what his skull could contain. This is probably one of the most extreme physical transformations we've ever seen from a devil fruit, and it shows just how powerful this enhancement really is. The fact that Vegapunk had to remove his own brain and connect it to his body through artificial means demonstrates the incredible dedication he has to knowledge and scientific advancement. Most people would be terrified at the prospect of such a drastic procedure, but Vegapunk saw it as a necessary step to maximize his intellectual potential. The Punk Records system. Vegapunk's solution to his oversized brain problem was to create Punk Records, a massive facility that houses his enhanced brain and connects to his body via antenna-like devices implanted in his head. This isn't just a storage system, it's a living, thinking extension of Vegapunk's consciousness that allows him to access his enhanced cognitive abilities without being weighed down by the physical mass of his enlarged brain. Thanks to a special antenna implanted on his head, Vegapunk can remotely connect himself with Punk Records through brainwaves, allowing him access to his own intellect and stored knowledge. This setup gives him the best of both worlds. He can move around and interact with people normally while still having access to superhuman intelligence and perfect memory. The Punk Records system also serves as a backup for all of Vegapunk's knowledge and research. Even if something happens to his physical body, all of his accumulated wisdom and discoveries remain safe in the facility. This makes him effectively immortal from an intellectual standpoint, since his knowledge can outlive his physical form. The satellite network. One of the most impressive applications of Vegapunk's enhanced intelligence was his ability to create the satellite system, MIS-6 artificial bodies that each embody different aspects of his personality while sharing access to his enhanced cognitive abilities. Vegapunk's satellites are also mentally synchronized with Punk Records, feeding it with new discoveries and experiences every day. Each satellite, Edison, Shaka, Edison, Pythagoras, Atlas, York, and Lilith, inherited portions of his enhanced intellect, allowing his research to progress exponentially faster than would otherwise be possible. This is like having 6 genius-level researchers working on different projects simultaneously while sharing a common knowledge base and cognitive enhancement. The satellite system shows just how far Vegapunk was able to push the boundaries of what his devil fruit could do. Not only did he enhance his own intelligence, but he figured out how to create multiple bodies that could access and utilize that enhancement independently. This represents a level of scientific achievement that goes far beyond what any normal human could accomplish. Information processing at light speed. The brain fruit allows Vegapunk to process information at speeds that seem impossible to other people. He can analyze complex scientific problems, review vast amounts of data, and come up with innovative solutions in the time it would take a normal person to read a single page of research. This enhanced processing speed explains how Vegapunk has been able to make so many groundbreaking discoveries across so many different fields. While other scientists might spend years working on a single project, Vegapunk can juggle dozens of research initiatives simultaneously while making progress on all of them at once. The speed enhancement also applies to learning new information. Vegapunk can absorb and understand new concepts almost instantly, allowing him to build on the work of other scientists and push beyond their limitations in record time. This is why he's been able to reverse engineer ancient technology, understand devil fruit mechanics, and create entirely new types of artificial life. Perfect memory and recall. One of the most valuable aspects of the brain fruit's enhancement is the perfect memory it provides. Vegapunk can remember everything he's ever learned, experienced, or observed with complete accuracy. He never forgets anything, never misremembers details, and can instantly recall any piece of information from his vast mental database. This perfect recall ability is what allowed Vegapunk to preserve and utilize the knowledge from Ohara after the island's destruction. When he visited the ruins and found the scholars' books floating in the lake, he was able to read and memorize all of that information without losing a single detail. The accumulated knowledge of Ohara's greatest archaeologists became part of his enhanced memory. The perfect memory also explains how Vegapunk has been able to make connections between seemingly unrelated fields of study. Because he can remember everything with perfect clarity, he can spot patterns and relationships that other scientists might miss or forget. This cross-disciplinary thinking is what has allowed him to make such revolutionary breakthroughs. Creative and analytical thinking. The brain fruit doesn't just make Vegapunk smarter in terms of memory and processing speed, it also enhances his creative and analytical thinking abilities. He can approach problems from multiple angles simultaneously, come up with innovative solutions that no one else would think of, and see possibilities that other people miss entirely. This enhanced creativity is what allowed Vegapunk to develop entirely new types of technology that go far beyond anything else in the One Piece world. The Pacifista program, the Seraphim project, artificial devil fruits, and countless other innovations required not just intelligence, but the ability to think in completely new ways about familiar problems. The analytical enhancement helps Vegapunk break down complex systems and understand how they work at a fundamental level. This is how he's been able to reverse engineer ancient technology, understand devil fruit mechanics, and create artificial versions of natural phenomena that other scientists consider impossible to replicate. The loneliness of ultimate intelligence. One of the tragic aspects of Vegapunk's extreme intelligence is how it isolates him from other people. His enhanced cognitive abilities make it difficult for him to relate to others or for them to understand his thinking processes. Most conversations probably feel painfully slow to someone who can process information at superhuman speeds. This isolation might be one of the reasons Vegapunk created the satellite system. Having multiple versions of himself to work with gives him intellectual companions who can actually keep up with his enhanced thinking. The satellites provide the kind of stimulating conversation and collaborative work that would be impossible with normal humans. The loneliness also explains why Vegapunk seems to form such strong emotional connections with the few people who can partially understand his work, like Kuma or Dragon. These relationships become incredibly valuable to someone whose intelligence makes it difficult to connect with most other people. The moral implications. Vegapunk's enhanced intelligence raises interesting questions about the nature of genius and the responsibility that comes with extreme intellectual ability. His devil fruit didn't just make him smarter, it gave him capabilities that are so far beyond normal human intelligence that he's almost a different species intellectually. This level of enhancement comes with enormous responsibility. Vegapunk's decisions and inventions have the power to reshape the entire world, and his enhanced intelligence means he can probably predict the consequences of his actions better than anyone else alive. When he chooses to create something like the Seraphim or artificial devil fruits, he's making choices that will affect millions of people. The brain fruit also raises questions about fairness and equality. Vegapunk didn't earn his intelligence through hard work or study. You can see he gained it by eating a devil fruit. This gives him an enormous advantage over other scientists and inventors who have to rely on natural human intelligence to make their discoveries. Limitations and vulnerabilities. Despite the incredible power of the brain fruit, it does have some limitations and creates certain vulnerabilities. The most obvious limitation is the physical requirement. Vegapunk's brain became so large that he had to undergo dangerous surgery to remove it from his skull and house it in an external facility. This setup makes Vegapunk dependent on the Punk Records facility and the antenna system that connects him to it. If something happens to disrupt that connection, he might lose access to his enhanced cognitive abilities. The facility also represents a single point of failure. If Punk Records is destroyed, Vegapunk could lose not just his enhancement, but also all of his accumulated knowledge and memories. The enhancement might also come with psychological costs that aren't immediately obvious. The constant influx of information and the ability to process everything at superhuman speeds could be overwhelming or mentally exhausting. Vegapunk might have to work harder than normal people just to maintain his sanity and emotional stability. The impact on scientific progress. Vegapunk's brain fruit enhancement has single-handedly accelerated scientific progress in the One Piece world by centuries. His inventions and discoveries have revolutionized everything from military technology to medical science, and his research has uncovered secrets that might have remained hidden forever without his enhanced cognitive abilities. The Pacifista program alone has changed the balance of power between pirates and the world government. The Seraphim project represents an even more dramatic leap forward. creating artificial beings that combine the best aspects of multiple different enhancement technologies. Without Vegapunk's enhanced intelligence, none of these developments would have been possible. His research into devil fruits has also advanced human understanding of these mysterious powers by generations. Vegapunk's theories about devil fruit origins, his artificial devil fruit creations, and his development of green blood technology all represent breakthroughs that normal scientists might never achieve, even with unlimited time and resources. The future implications. The brain fruit enhancement has implications that go far beyond Vegapunk's individual achievements. His research and inventions are setting the stage for major changes in how the One Piece world works, and his enhanced intelligence allows him to see and plan for future developments that other people can't even imagine. Vegapunk's knowledge of the Void Century, his understanding of ancient technology, and his theories about the true nature of devil fruits are all contributing to revelations that will reshape how people understand their world. His enhanced intelligence makes him one of the few people capable of putting together the pieces of these ancient mysteries. The satellite system also means that Vegapunk's enhanced intelligence will survive, even if something happens to his original body. The accumulated knowledge and cognitive enhancement stored in Punk records represents a legacy that could continue advancing scientific progress for generations to come. So Dr. Vegapunk's incredible intelligence comes from the No Mi brain fruit, which enhanced his cognitive abilities so dramatically that his brain physically outgrew his skull and had to be housed in the massive Punk Records facility. This devil fruit allows him to process information at superhuman speeds, maintain perfect memory of everything he's ever learned, and think creatively at levels impossible for normal humans. The enhancement enabled him to create the satellite system, where 6 artificial bodies share access to his enhanced intellect, revolutionizing scientific progress and allowing him to make breakthrough discoveries across multiple fields simultaneously. While this power makes him the smartest person in the world, it also isolates him from normal human relationships and creates dependencies on the external brain facility that connects to his body through antenna implants. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to The Will of Ohara lives through Vegapunk. The Will of Ohara lives through Vegapunk. Moving on, we've got The Will of Ohara lives through Vegapunk, and this is one of the most emotionally powerful and historically significant revelations in the entire Egghead arc. For decades, we believed that the world government had successfully destroyed Ohara and wiped out all traces of their forbidden research into the Void Century. But the truth is far more inspiring. The scholars of Ohara found a way to preserve their life's work and ensure that their quest for knowledge would continue even after their deaths. The tragic history of Ohara. To understand why this revelation is so important, we need to remember what happened to Ohara and why it was so devastating. Ohara was known as the Holy Land of Archaeology because it housed some of the greatest scholars and researchers in the world. These weren't just random academics. They were people who had dedicated their entire lives to understanding history and preserving knowledge for future generations. The scholars of Ohara made the fatal mistake of researching the Void Century, the 100-year period that the world government has forbidden anyone from studying. When the government discovered what they were doing, they responded with overwhelming force. A buster call was ordered, and the entire island was destroyed along with everyone on it, including the legendary scholar Professor Clover and Robin's mother, Nico Olvia. The destruction of Ohara was meant to send a message to the entire world. Anyone who tries to uncover the truth about the Void Century will be eliminated completely. The world government wanted to make sure that no trace of Ohara's research survived, so they could continue hiding the secrets of that lost century from the world. The scholars' final act. But the scholars of Ohara weren't going to let their life's work die with them. Even as the buster call rained destruction down on their island, they made a desperate final attempt to preserve their knowledge. Vegapunk discovered that the scholars had thrown all of their research books and documents into a lake before the island was completely destroyed. Vegapunk discovered that Ohara scholars preserved their knowledge by throwing books into a lake before the buster call, and these books were later recovered by giants from Elbaf, allowing the Will of Ohara to continue through Vegapunk's research. This wasn't just a random act of desperation. It was a carefully planned strategy to ensure that their research would survive even if they didn't. The scholars knew they were going to die, but they also knew that their work was too important to be lost forever. By throwing their books into the lake, they were gambling that someone would eventually find them and continue their research. It was an act of incredible faith in the future and in the power of knowledge to survive even the most brutal attempts to suppress it. The giant's role. The story becomes even more moving when we learn about who rescued O'Hara's knowledge from the ruins. A few months after the O'Hara incident, Vegapunk visited the remains of the island to pay his respects, where he came across the site of a lake stuffed full to the brim with books, the final acts of the O'Haran scholars. But Vegapunk wasn't the first person to discover these books. The lakes were being dredged of the books by giants of Elbaf, being led by a giant covered in bandages. These giants had come to O'Hara to recover the scholars' research and preserve it for the future. The involvement of the Elbaf giants adds another layer of significance to this story. The giants are known for their honor and their respect for knowledge and tradition. The fact that they took on the responsibility of preserving O'Hara's research shows that they understood the importance of what the scholars had died trying to protect. Dragon's connection. The story becomes even more complex when we learn about Monkey D. Dragon's involvement in preserving O'Hara's legacy. Vegapunk learned their identities from Dragon, who arrived earlier to also pay his respects, and found out who they were directly from them. Dragon's presence at O'Hara's ruins shows that the Revolutionary Army has always understood the connection between historical truth and their fight against the world government. Dragon knew that the scholars of O'Hara had died trying to uncover the same secrets that the Revolutionary Army needs to understand if they're going to successfully overthrow the current system. This connection between Dragon and the preservation of O'Hara's knowledge also explains why the Revolutionary Army has been so supportive of people like Robin, who carries on the scholars' work. They understand that the fight for political freedom and the fight for historical truth are really the same battle. Robin's emotional realization. One of the most powerful moments in this entire revelation comes when Robin realizes what her mother and the other scholars had actually accomplished. Hearing this, Robin recalled parting with her mother and fellow archaeologists, and realized what her mother and old friends intended, causing her to tear up. For years, Robin has carried the burden of being the sole survivor of O'Hara, believing that she was the only person left who could continue her mother's work. Learning that the scholars had successfully preserved their research, and that it was being continued by others, must have been an incredible emotional relief. This revelation also validates everything that Robin has gone through since O'Hara's destruction. All of her suffering, her years of running and hiding, her search for the truth, it was all part of a larger plan that her mother and the other scholars had set in motion with their final act of preserving their books. Vegapunk as the inheritor. Vegapunk's role as the inheritor of O'Hara's knowledge is particularly significant because of his unique position and abilities. As the world government's chief scientist, he has access to resources and information that the original O'Hara scholars never could have dreamed of. His enhanced intelligence from the brain fruit also allows him to understand and build upon their research in ways that might not be possible for anyone else. But more importantly, Vegapunk shares the same fundamental values that drove the O'Hara scholars, a dedication to truth and knowledge, regardless of the personal cost. Even though he works for the world government, he has continued the forbidden research into the Void Century, knowing full well that it could cost him his life. Vegapunk's research has already uncovered many of the secrets that the O'Hara scholars died trying to learn. His theories about devil fruits, his knowledge of ancient technology, and his understanding of the true history of the world all build directly on the foundation that the O'Hara scholars established with their research. The meaning of victory. One of the most powerful aspects of this revelation is Vegapunk's statement that O'Hara achieved victory through their final act. In doing so, they managed to safeguard their knowledge and legacy, and as such, secured O'Hara's victory. This reframes the entire tragedy of O'Hara's destruction from a complete defeat into a strategic sacrifice. The scholars of O'Hara didn't just die trying to uncover the truth, they successfully ensured that their work would continue even after their deaths. Their victory lies in the fact that the world government's attempt to completely suppress their research ultimately failed. The knowledge they died to protect is still alive and still being used to uncover the secrets the government wants to hide. This concept of victory through sacrifice is central to many of the themes in One Piece. Throughout the series, we've seen how people's dreams and ideals can survive even after the dreamers themselves are gone. Ohara's victory shows that even the most brutal attempts to suppress truth and knowledge can be overcome by people who are willing to sacrifice everything to preserve what matters most. The broader network of knowledge. The preservation of Ohara's research also reveals that there's a broader network of people and organizations working to uncover and preserve historical truth. The giants of Elbaf, Dragon, and the Revolutionary Army, Vegapunk, and Robin are all part of a loose alliance of people who understand that the world government's version of history is a lie. This network shows that the world government's attempts to control information and suppress historical research haven't been completely successful. Despite their best efforts to eliminate anyone who asks inconvenient questions, there are still people around the world who are working to uncover the truth about the Void Century and the real history of the world government. The connection to current events. The will of Ohara living through Vegapunk becomes particularly relevant during the events of the Egghead arc. When the world government decides to eliminate Vegapunk for his forbidden research, they're essentially trying to complete the job they started with the destruction of Ohara decades earlier. But just as the Ohara scholars found a way to preserve their knowledge even in death, Vegapunk has prepared his own methods for ensuring that his research will survive, even if he doesn't. His worldwide broadcast during the Egghead incident represents another attempt to make sure that suppressed knowledge reaches the people who need to hear it. The cyclical nature of suppression and preservation. The story of Ohara's knowledge being preserved and continued through Vegapunk illustrates a recurring pattern in the One Piece world. Age 2, the world government's attempts to suppress inconvenient truths are always eventually defeated by people who are willing to sacrifice everything to preserve and share knowledge. This cycle has been going on for centuries, probably dating back to the original conflict during the Void Century. Each generation of truth seekers builds on the work of those who came before, gradually uncovering more and more of the secrets that the world government wants to keep hidden. The will of Ohara represents the accumulated efforts of everyone who has ever tried to understand the true history of the world. It's not just about the specific research that the Ohara scholars conducted, it's about the idea that truth and knowledge are more important than personal safety or comfort. The emotional legacy. Beyond the practical aspects of preserving research and uncovering historical secrets, the will of Ohara represents an emotional and spiritual legacy that continues to inspire people around the world. Robin carries this legacy as the last person trained by the Ohara scholars, but she's not alone. Everyone who seeks truth in defiance of authority is part of Ohara's spiritual inheritance. This emotional legacy is what gives people the strength to continue dangerous research, even when they know it might cost them their lives. The scholars of Ohara proved that it's possible to defeat oppression through knowledge and sacrifice, and that example continues to inspire new generations of truth seekers. The future of the will. The will of Ohara doesn't end with Vegapunk any more than it ended with the original scholars. As long as there are people willing to seek truth and preserve knowledge, this will continue to live and grow. Robin, the Revolutionary Army, and others who share these values will continue the work that began with the scholars of Ohara. The worldwide broadcast that Vegapunk planned represents another step in this ongoing process. Just as the Ohara scholars threw their books into a lake to preserve their research, Vegapunk is using modern technology to ensure that his discoveries reach people all around the world, regardless of the world government's attempts to suppress them. Summary: the scholars of Ohara ensured their research survived by throwing all their books into a lake before their island's destruction, and these books were later recovered by giants from Elbaf with help from Monkey D. Dragon. Dr. Vegapunk inherited this preserved knowledge and has continued their forbidden research into the Void Century, making their sacrifice a victory rather than a complete defeat. This revelation shows Robin that her mother's final act successfully preserved the scholar's life work, connecting the destruction of Ohara to current events as Vegapunk faces the same persecution for seeking historical truth. The will of Ohara represents an ongoing cycle where each generation of truth seekers builds upon the sacrifices of those before them, proving that knowledge and the desire for truth can survive even the most brutal attempts at suppression by the world government. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Buccaneer Giant Connection Theory. The Buccaneer Giant Connection Theory. Next up, we've got the Buccaneer Giant Connection Theory, and this fascinating speculation has taken the One Piece community by storm ever since we learned about Kuma's true heritage. The revelation that Buccaneers are a race with giant blood running through their veins has opened up incredible possibilities about other characters we've known for years, suggesting that some of the most powerful and memorable figures in the series might actually share this ancient lineage. The physical evidence. The most obvious connection between Buccaneers and other characters comes from their shared physical characteristics. Fan theories suggest other large characters like Whitebeard might also be Buccaneers, given their similar physical traits and the race's connection to giants. When we look at characters like Whitebeard, Big Mom, and even Blackbeard, we see people with unnaturally large physiques that go far beyond what normal human genetics should produce. Buccaneers possess giant blood running through their veins, making them massive and tremendously strong. This isn't just about being tall or muscular. It's about having a fundamentally different physical structure that allows for size and strength that regular humans simply cannot achieve, no matter how much they train or how good their genetics are. The similarities between known Buccaneers like Kuma and characters like Whitebeard are striking. Both have massive frames, incredible physical strength, and the kind of presence that makes them stand out even among other powerful individuals. Their facial features also share certain characteristics: pronounced bone structure, larger than normal proportions, and an overall appearance that suggests something beyond normal human genetics. Whitebeard as a potential Buccaneer. The strongest candidate for secret Buccaneer heritage is Edward Newgate, better known as Whitebeard. After Eiichiro Oda revealed the truth about the Buccaneers, fans started to notice the similarities between Whitebeard and Kuma. Both of them looked identical, with unnaturally large physique and pronounced facial features that suggest giant ancestry. But the physical similarities are just the beginning. Whitebeard's dream of wanting a family makes much more sense when one considers the tragedy of the Buccaneers and their history of persecution. If Whitebeard was a Buccaneer, then his desperate desire to create a chosen family with his crew takes on much deeper meaning. He was trying to rebuild the connections that his race had lost through centuries of oppression and near extinction. Whitebeard's incredible endurance and resilience also fit the Buccaneer profile perfectly. During the Battle of Marineford, he endured several life-threatening injuries but stood firm even in his passing. He didn't falter in the least, proving his extraordinary strength and endurance that goes beyond what even the strongest normal humans could achieve. This kind of supernatural toughness is exactly what we'd expect from someone with giant blood. The emotional connection. What makes the Whitebeard theory particularly compelling isn't just the physical evidence, but the emotional patterns that seem to match what we know about Buccaneer psychology. Whitebeard held his sons close to his heart, showing a level of emotional investment and protective instinct that goes beyond normal pirate crew relationships. Even after being betrayed by one of them, he only had kindness to show them in return. This deep caring for family and crew members makes perfect sense if Whitebeard belonged to a race that had been systematically destroyed and separated from their loved ones. His feelings were probably a result of losing everyone he once held dear, just like what happened to Kuma's family and countless other Buccaneer families throughout history. The way Whitebeard treated his crew as his sons, rather than just subordinates, also fits the pattern of someone trying to rebuild the family connections that systematic persecution had destroyed. He wasn't just creating a pirate crew. He was trying to recreate the kind of loving, supportive community that the Buccaneers might have had before the world government began hunting them down. Other potential candidates. The Buccaneer theory doesn't stop with Whitebeard. Several other characters throughout the series have physical and emotional characteristics that could suggest giant ancestry. Charlotte Linlin, better known as Big Mom, has always been unnaturally large and strong, even by One Piece standards. Her incredible durability, massive appetite, and ability to have children with seemingly any species might all be connected to Buccaneer heritage. Big Mom's obsession with creating a family that includes representatives from every race in the world could be driven by the same kind of loss that might have motivated Whitebeard. If she's a Buccaneer who lost her original family and community, then her desperate attempts to create an artificial family through marriage alliances and forced adoption might represent her trying to fill that void. Blackbeard is another candidate who deserves consideration. His unusual body structure, his ability to eat multiple devil fruits without dying, and his abnormal sleeping patterns all suggest that he might not be entirely human. If he has Buccaneer blood, it could explain why he's able to break rules that apply to everyone else in the One Piece world. The historical persecution pattern. Understanding the Buccaneer connection theory requires recognizing the pattern of historical persecution that has shaped how these characters might have developed. Whatever crime the Buccaneers committed against the world has led to centuries of systematic hunting and enslavement by the world government. This persecution would have forced most Buccaneers to hide their true heritage, just like Kuma's family tried to do before they were discovered and enslaved. Anyone with Buccaneer blood would have learned to keep their ancestry secret, which could explain why characters like Whitebeard never openly discuss their backgrounds or family histories. The need to hide their heritage might also explain why so many potentially Buccaneer characters seem to create chosen families rather than biological ones. If having children means potentially passing on the genetic markers that could lead to persecution, then some Buccaneers might choose to build families through adoption and emotional bonds rather than risking the safety of biological descendants. The strength and endurance factor. One of the most consistent characteristics of suspected Buccaneer characters is their incredible physical resilience and endurance. This goes beyond just being strong or tough. It's about having a fundamentally different relationship with pain, injury, and physical limitations. Whitebeard's performance during the Marineford War perfectly exemplifies this kind of supernatural endurance. He fought through injuries that should have killed him multiple times over, and even after his death, his body remained standing in a position of defiance. This isn't just willpower or determination. It suggests a physical constitution that operates by different rules than normal human biology. Kuma has shown similar resilience throughout his appearances in the series. Even as a cyborg, he's been able to withstand incredible amounts of damage and continue functioning when other people would have been completely incapacitated. His ability to absorb and redistribute pain through his devil fruit powers might be enhanced by his natural Buccaneer resistance to physical trauma. The giant blood connection. The revelation that Buccaneers have giant blood raises interesting questions about the relationship between these two races and how their genetics might interact. Giants in the One Piece world are known for their incredible longevity, with lifespans that extend far beyond normal human ranges. If Buccaneers carry giant genetics, they might also have extended lifespans that could explain how some characters have remained active and powerful for so many decades. The giant connection might also explain why Buccaneer characters seem to have such strong connections to concepts of honor, family, and loyalty. Giants in One Piece are consistently portrayed as having strong moral codes and deep emotional bonds, characteristics that we see repeated in characters like Whitebeard and Kuma. The cover-up implications. If there are other Buccaneers hiding in plain sight throughout the One Piece world, it suggests that the world government's persecution campaign hasn't been as successful as they might have hoped. Characters like Whitebeard managed to become incredibly powerful and influential while potentially hiding their true heritage from the world. This hidden network of Buccaneers could have significant implications for the final conflicts in One Piece. If people with giant blood and incredible physical abilities have been secretly building power and influence throughout the world, they could represent a major threat to the world government's control when their true nature is finally revealed. The genetic diversity question. The Buccaneer theory also raises questions about how giant genetics might be distributed throughout the population. Kuma is described as half Buccaneer through his father's side, which suggests that the giant bloodline can be inherited even through mixed ancestry. This means that Buccaneer traits might be much more widespread than anyone realizes. If giant blood can be passed down through generations and remain dormant until certain conditions activate it, then there could be potential Buccaneers throughout the world who don't even know their own heritage. This could explain why some characters seem to develop unusual strength and abilities later in life, or why certain individuals seem to break the normal rules of human physical limitations. The world government's fear. The possibility of hidden Buccaneers throughout the world would explain why the world government has been so thorough and brutal in their persecution of this race. If people with giant blood have the potential to become incredibly powerful and influential, then allowing them to multiply and organize would represent an existential threat to the government's control. The systematic enslavement and elimination of Buccaneers makes more strategic sense if the government knows that these people have the potential to become figures like Whitebeard, individuals so powerful and charismatic that they can challenge the established order just through their personal strength and influence. The future implications. As the final saga continues to unfold, the revelation of hidden Buccaneers could become a major plot point. If characters like Whitebeard were actually members of this persecuted race, it could reframe many of the conflicts and relationships throughout the series in a completely new light. The discovery of widespread Buccaneer heritage might also provide additional allies for Luffy and the forces fighting against the world government. People who learn about their giant ancestry might feel compelled to join the fight against the system that has oppressed their people for centuries. The emotional impact. Beyond the strategic implications, the revelation of hidden Buccaneer characters would have enormous emotional impact for the story and its themes. Learning that beloved figures like Whitebeard were actually members of a persecuted race would add new layers of tragedy and meaning to their stories, while also highlighting the themes of hidden strength and the power of chosen family that run throughout One Piece. The Buccaneer connection theory represents one of the most compelling and emotionally resonant fan theories in the One Piece community, connecting beloved characters to newly revealed lore in ways that enhance rather than diminish their impact on the story. Summary: fan theories suggest that characters like Whitebeard might be secret Buccaneers due to their similar massive physiques, incredible strength, and emotional patterns that match known Buccaneer characteristics. Whitebeard's dream of creating a family and his supernatural endurance during Marineford could be explained by Buccaneer heritage and the trauma of racial persecution. Other potential candidates include Big Mom and Blackbeard, whose unusual abilities and physical traits might stem from hidden giant ancestry. Since Buccaneers have been systematically hunted by the world government for centuries, many might have hidden their heritage while building chosen families and accumulating power, potentially creating a secret network of incredibly powerful individuals who could play major roles in the series' final conflicts. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Iron Giant's 200-year mystery. The Iron Giant's 200-year mystery. Next up, we've got the Iron Giant's 200-year mystery. And this puzzle has been driving One Piece fans absolutely crazy ever since we learned about Emmett's incredible history. The mystery is simple to understand, but seemingly impossible to solve. If the Iron Giant is powered by the Drums of Liberation from Nika's awakened powers, and the Five Elders claim that no one has awakened the Nika fruit for 800 years before Luffy, then how did this ancient robot manage to climb the Red Line and attack Mary Geoise exactly 200 years ago? The contradictory timeline. The core of this mystery lies in what appears to be a direct contradiction between established facts. The mystery of how the Iron Giant attacked Mary Geoise 200 years ago, when the Nika fruit supposedly hadn't awakened for 800 years, has created one of the most intriguing puzzles in the entire series. On one hand, we've seen clear evidence that the Iron Giant only activates when it hears Luffy's Drums of Liberation, suggesting that this ancient energy source is absolutely necessary for its operation. On the other hand, we have the Five Elders' statement that the Nika fruit hadn't been awakened for centuries before Luffy came along. If both of these facts are true, then something doesn't add up. Either the Elders are lying about the timeline, or there's another explanation for how the Iron Giant managed to power up 200 years ago without the presence of an awakened Nika user. This contradiction becomes even more puzzling when we consider that the Iron Giant's attack 200 years ago wasn't just a brief activation. It managed to climb the entire Red Line, which is an enormous physical undertaking that would require sustained power over an extended period of time. This wasn't a quick burst of activity, but a major operation that should have required significant energy input. The failed Nika theory. One of the most popular explanations for this mystery is that someone else briefly awakened the power of Nika 200 years ago but failed to maintain it or died before they could accomplish their goals. This theory suggests that there was another potential Joy Boy who managed to partially activate their abilities but couldn't sustain them long enough to complete whatever mission they were attempting. Theories include another failed Nika user or time travel involvement from Amatsuki Toki, both of which could explain how the Iron Giant received power during a period when the Nika fruit supposedly wasn't awakened. The failed Nika theory makes sense from a storytelling perspective because it would explain why the world government believed the fruit hadn't been awakened. If the previous user died or lost their powers quickly, the Elders might not have even realized what had happened. This explanation also fits with the themes of inherited will and failed dreams that run throughout One Piece. Just as there have been many people who tried to find the One Piece before Luffy, there might have been others who tried to become Joy Boy but couldn't quite manage to fulfill that role. The Iron Giant's 200-year-ago activation could represent the last attempt by a previous generation to continue Joy Boy's mission. The Amatsuki Toki connection. Another compelling theory involves Amatsuki Toki, the time-traveling woman who eventually married Kozuki Oden. Since Toki had the power to travel through time from the Void Century, she might have jumped to 200 years ago, somehow activated the Iron Giant, and then continued forward to Oden's time period. This theory is particularly interesting because Toki actually lived during the Void Century and would have had direct knowledge of Joy Boy, the Iron Giant, and the ancient technology that powered it. Unlike other potential Nika users, she would have understood exactly what she was dealing with and might have known specific techniques or methods for activating ancient machines. The time travel element also explains why there's no historical record of a Nika user from 200 years ago. If Toki was only in that time period briefly before jumping forward again, she might not have left any lasting impact on the world or any evidence that would have reached the Five Elders' attention. Alternative power sources. Another possibility is that the Iron Giant doesn't exclusively run on Nika's power, but can also be activated by other forms of ancient energy that we haven't learned about yet. Perhaps 200 years ago, there was someone who possessed a different type of power that was compatible with ancient technology, even if it wasn't specifically the Drums of Liberation. This could involve other ancient weapons, different types of Devil Fruit awakenings, or even completely different power systems that existed in the ancient kingdom. If the civilization that created the Iron Giant had multiple types of advanced technology, they might have built in backup power sources or alternative activation methods. The Iron Giant might also be able to draw power from strong emotions or willpower in general, not just the specific energy signature of the awakened Nika fruit. If someone 200 years ago had sufficient determination and the right kind of spiritual energy, they might have been able to temporarily power the ancient robot even without being the true Joy Boy. The historical context. Understanding what was happening in the world 200 years ago might provide clues about why the Iron Giant activated at that specific time. Robin mentions that 200 years ago was also the year discrimination against fishmen became an issue, suggesting it may be connected to Emmet's activation. This timing can't be a coincidence. The fact that both the Iron Giant's attack and the beginning of systematic fishman discrimination happened in the same year suggests that these events were connected in some way. Perhaps the Iron Giant's assault on Mary Geoise was specifically intended to stop or protest the world government's new policies toward fishmen. This connection makes sense when we remember that Joy Boy had a special relationship with the people of Fishman Island and made important promises to them. If someone was trying to continue Joy Boy's mission 200 years ago, protecting the fishmen from persecution would have been a natural priority. The discrimination connection. The timing of fishman discrimination starting 200 years ago provides another clue about what might have triggered the Iron Giant's activation. It's possible that the world government started the discrimination against fishmen because they helped the Iron Giant attempt his attack on Mary Geoise, and the robot acted following Joy Boy's instructions or reacting to someone who used powers similar to Nika. This theory suggests that there might have been fishmen or other allies of Joy Boy who were still active 200 years ago and tried to complete his unfinished business. The Iron Giant might have responded to their call for help or their attempts to fulfill ancient promises, even if they didn't have the exact same powers as the original Joy Boy. The world government's response, HDS, starting systematic discrimination against fishmen, would make sense as a punishment for their involvement in the attack. By making fishmen into second-class citizens and encouraging hatred against them, the government could ensure that they would never again have the unity or strength to support another assault on Mary Geoise. The partial awakening theory. Another explanation for the 200-year mystery is that someone managed to partially awaken Nika's powers without achieving full transformation. This person might have been able to produce weak drums of liberation that were just barely sufficient to power the Iron Giant for a short time, but not strong enough to maintain full awakened abilities. This partial awakening might not have been significant enough to register with the Five Elders as a true awakening of the Nika fruit. If the previous user couldn't maintain Gear 5 transformation or produce the full range of liberation powers, the Elders might have dismissed it as an unusual but ultimately unimportant event. The Iron Giant itself might have been more sensitive to Nika's energy 200 years ago than it is now. After centuries of dormancy, the ancient technology might have become less responsive to weak signals, which would explain why it needed Luffy's full awakened power to reactivate in the present day. The secret Nika user. There's also the possibility that there was indeed a successful Nika awakening 200 years ago, but the world government successfully covered it up or eliminated the user before they could cause major changes. The five elders might be lying about the 800-year gap not out of ignorance, but as part of a deliberate deception to hide their past failures. This secret Nika user might have been someone who understood the need for secrecy and operated in the shadows rather than openly challenging the world government. They could have activated the Iron Giant as part of a covert mission, then disappeared or died before anyone realized what had really happened. The cover-up theory gains credibility when we consider how much the world government has hidden about the Void Century and other historical events. If they were willing to erase an entire century from history, they would certainly be capable of hiding evidence of a single Nika user who appeared briefly and then vanished. The Ancient Technology Network. The Iron Giant's mysterious activation might also be connected to a broader network of ancient technology that we're only beginning to understand. If there are other ancient machines scattered around the world, they might be capable of sharing power or triggering each other's activation under certain circumstances. Perhaps 200 years ago, another piece of ancient technology was activated somewhere else in the world, and its energy signature was strong enough to wake up the Iron Giant even without a direct Nika user being present. This would explain how the robot could power up without contradicting the established timeline of Nika awakenings. This network theory also fits with the idea that the ancient kingdom built their technology to work together as a coordinated system. The Iron Giant might not need direct contact with a Nika user if it can draw power from other connected devices that are responding to liberation energy from somewhere else in the world. The environmental factor. Another possibility is that the Iron Giant's activation 200 years ago was triggered by environmental or cosmic factors rather than human intervention. Ancient technology might be sensitive to things like celestial alignments, changes in the planet's magnetic field, or other natural phenomena that occur on predictable cycles. This would explain why the activation happened at such a specific time and why it hasn't been repeated until now. If the Iron Giant is programmed to respond to certain environmental conditions that only occur every few centuries, then its 200-year-ago activation might have been an automatic response to natural triggers rather than human commands. The implications for the present. Solving the 200-year mystery has important implications for understanding what's happening in the current story. If there was another Nika user or alternative power source that activated the Iron Giant in the past, then there might be other ways to power ancient technology beyond Luffy's abilities. This could mean that there are more ancient machines waiting to be discovered and activated, or that other characters might be able to access this technology through methods that haven't been revealed yet. The mystery's resolution could unlock new possibilities for the forces fighting against the world government. The ongoing investigation. The Iron Giant's 200-year mystery remains one of the most intriguing unsolved puzzles in One Piece, and its resolution will likely provide major revelations about the true nature of ancient technology, the history of Nika users, and the connections between past and present conflicts in the series. As more information about the Void Century and ancient technology continues to be revealed, fans continue to piece together clues and develop new theories about how this seemingly impossible activation could have occurred without contradicting established timeline facts. Summary. The Iron Giant attacked Mary Geoise 200 years ago, despite the five elders claiming the Nika fruit hadn't awakened for 800 years before Luffy, creating a major timeline contradiction since the robot only responds to the drums of liberation. Popular theories include a failed Nika user who briefly awakened the power but couldn't maintain it, time travel involvement from Amatsuki Toki, who lived during the Void Century, or alternative power sources that could activate ancient technology. The timing coincides with the beginning of Fishman discrimination, suggesting these events were connected and that the world government may have retaliated against Fishmen for helping the Iron Giant's assault on Mary Geoise. This mystery remains unsolved, but could reveal important information about hidden Nika users, ancient technology networks, or covered-up historical events when finally explained. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.